The views and events expressed here are totally whacked and are not necessarily the views of anyone.
Choose your destiny.
Dime qué tú quieres, papi. ¿Quieres que lo mueva para ti? Mueve, mueve. ¿Te gusta cuando me muevo así? Así.
Thank you, God, for this day we have lived, everything in our life, our health, our family, the guidance you have given us, allow us guidance to the path of righteousness. Amen.
Really, I'ma get that bitch. Revenge is a dish best served cold. She took my son, now my soul is cold. He took my daddy, now my soul is old. Yeah. Woke up.
Yeah, man.
That's hot shit right there, man.
So what we gonna do? We gonna dub?
King Chaka ENT. Y'all can check out the music on Spotify, Apple, and other services. Doing what we do 3 to 4 nights a week. King Chaka ENT.
I got this.
From the
She
back
starts
seat.
shooting.
That dude was like, ow.
What was that?
Outside the car,
That nigga
deputies'
got
body
popped.
cameras capturing the bullets flying through the air.
We got shots fired
couldn't
up
have been
here.
a straight
We need
shot. It had
backup
to be-
immediately. Start
Are you-
EMS. Start EMS.
What
We got
the
a
fuck?
civilian. We got a civilian hit.
The deputy.
Looks like we got us another hit.
This is copyright.gov, U.S. Copyright Office. More information on fair use. Fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyright-protected works in certain circumstances. Section 107 of the Copyright Act provides the statutory framework for determining whether something is a fair use and identifies certain types of uses such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. Section 107 calls for consideration of the following 4 factors in evaluating a question of fair use: purpose and character of the use, including whether the use of the commercial nature or is for nonprofit educational purposes, nature of the copyrighted work, amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole, effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Okay, so anything I use for you guys, hit me up if you want me to remove it, edit it, or whatever. Nothing is used to infringe on anybody's intellectual property. I don't intend on doing that, and I don't intend on profiting from anyone's intellectual property. So I'm glad to edit or delete anything that's any of my videos that I've used of anybody. So that's it. Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whack and are not necessarily the views of anyone. Yeah, thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for listening. It was a real struggle. I'm having a real struggle right now. My phone is not charging. So with that said, I'm not doing a freaking monologue. I don't even know if y'all can hear me. Last show I did, I started off with nothing. And I don't have anybody here to know if y'all can hear me. And then my freaking phone is not charging because I was going to use that to double check. That was my plan for today. But that is not working out. I'm going to have to go get my phone fixed tomorrow. It is what it is, yo. So, I was going to name this show Walaikum Assalam. That was going to be the name of the show. Let me go to this right quick. Y'all, give me a second. Hopefully I get some people in here. I can't even send text messages out to let people know I'm on the show. I sent some Facebook messages, but who knows if people are going to check their Facebook Messenger. No telling. We'll see what happens. So, Assalamu alaikum. It's a greeting. Arabic. Muslims. The name of the show today is World Awareness Class, because the stuff that I'm going to talk about today is to help people understand the world better. A lot of people have problems. I don't know what it is with it's a brainwashing. It's clearly a brainwashing. I mentioned it before on one of the other shows where they were talking about, I talked to somebody and they were like, Islam is the opposite of Christianity. And I was like, no, that is absolutely not true. Now, me, I've gone to mosque, and I've gone to church. I've attended other different kinds of spirituality, meetings, worship. I don't necessarily subscribe to any of them, although I feel like I'm a spiritual person, and I think spirituality is the way to go. Spirituality existed before Islam, before Christianity, before Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever, any of the organized religions. And I think that's what we need to get back to. But I think that we also need to have tolerance for people who subscribe to this religion or the other, instead of like, okay, they're like, oh, Muhammad had a lady who was 12 years old or 13 years old as a concubine or whatever, and they like to throw that in the face. And I was thinking about that while I was driving home today, and I was like, so during that time when Muhammad was here and he had a wife that was so young, how uncommon was that really? My daughter's grandma got married when she was like 14 years old. I want to say 13, 14, something like that. And here in the States, it was very, very common, 12, 13 years old to be already sexually active and already getting married and so forth and so on. And a lot of times the husband was older. In my daughter's grandma's case, her husband was about the same age as her. So whatever. So I guess that justifies it then in that situation if they're the same age. I don't know. But what I'm saying is this was going around in the world, all over the world at this time. And it was very common. It wasn't you can't judge like things that happened in the past by present day standards, And a lot of it I don't agree with anyway. They have different ages of consent in different countries all over the world. I was just watching something. What was it? Japan. In Japan, nationally, the age of consent is like 13, 14, something like that. It is what it is, however you want to feel about it, And then this thing where we have this complete visceral hate where we feel like someone's a pedophile. Like I saw a post by, what's her name? Bad Baby. The Catch Me Outside girl. And she posted recently, there's a show, and then it kind of went viral, the clip where she was saying, she did her OnlyFans at 18. Soon as the day she turned 18, she did an OnlyFans, and she said that all the guys who signed up to her OnlyFans on the day that she turned 18 should be arrested. Now, that's crazy talk in my view. Really it is. I mean, like, really, she got rich off of those guys. Now, what she was saying, what she was hinting at is that, like, those guys obviously were just already looking at her before she turned 18. It was just drooling and waiting for her to turn 18 so she could do an OnlyFans so they can get on there. She got rich as hell that first year on OnlyFans. Made a whole shit ton of money. So that's whatever. It just shows our world. But so like what the way I look at it is like, okay, you turned 18. That like the day you turned 18, you were an adult. So the day before you wasn't. Like magically you're an adult, magically you're mature enough, magically you're ready to, be sexually active, and it's okay. But the day before it's not. I don't know. It's just crazy talk, if you ask me. I don't know. Again, I think it's brainwashing. I agree. These people that are under 18, 13 years old, I don't know that being sexually active is a good idea because they could get used and manipulated by people. And that would be the problem I have. So the problem I would have is abuse related to people being used. There's where the abuse gets in because they are all like in love with some guy who's just mashing them and don't really care about them at all. And they're all emotional and they're young. They don't really know the world. They know what they're doing though, but they don't understand the world. They don't understand how someone could be just using them for some physical acts. So yes, I agree with that part. But I think that we are confused on a lot of this stuff and we're brainwashed with a lot of this stuff. And we like to find stuff to be outraged and angry about. And a lot of times I just feel like those particular topics are stuff to distract you from the main issues of the world. Like, so I'm just really be angry at this guy, whatever. So, assalamu alaikum. Am I sharing? This is a Wikipedia page. I know you don't like Wikipedia, but I don't care. Assalamu alaikum is a greeting in Arabic that means peace be upon you. The salam, meaning peace, has become a religious salutation for Muslims worldwide when greeting each other. Though it is used as a greeting, predates Islam, and is also common among Arabic speakers of other religions such as Arab Christians and Mizrahi Jews. In colloquial speech, often only the first part of the phrase, salam, is used to greet a person. The typical response to the greeting is, wa alaikum assalam, and peace be upon you. The complete phrase is, assalamu alaikum, alaikum wa rahmatu lahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you, as well as the mercy of God and his blessings. The greeting in its abbreviated form, salam, has come to be used as the general salutation in other languages as well. Among Christians during Mass and other liturgical services, the priest or pastor of the congregation often uses the salutation, peace be with you, sometimes replying, and also with you. The term itself originates in the cognate Aramaic phrase, which was borrowed into Arabic. Cognate Semitic language parallels includes the Aramaic Classical Syriac and the Hebrew Shalom Aleichem. So that stuff is really common. It says the phrase is normally pronounced according to local dialects of speakers and is very often shortened. For example, in Egypt, by native English Muslims. I want to go to wa alaikum assalam. Where is that? Walaikum assalam is an Arabic greeting often used by Muslims around the world, translating to "may peace be upon you." It is a blessing giving to another. It is the standard response to assalamu alaikum greeting. The greetings are intentional communications to acknowledge someone's presence or to make someone feel welcomed. They are used prior to a conversation and are said to be good manners. The greeting is considered an important Islamic duty and obligation. Salam has been a standard salutation among Muslims. The greeting is regularly exchanged during Muslim lectures and sermons. The complete form is wa alaikum salam wa rahmatu lahi wa barakatuh. And upon you be peace, as well as the mercy of God and his blessings. So, I have a Quran here. Check it out. Pretty cool. Pretty cool right there. So this one is called The Meaning of the Holy Quran because it has Arabic and English in it on like each page. It says the new edition with revised translation and commentary, which makes this extremely cool. Like I always felt like Arabic is the most beautiful written language. I don't care what none of y'all say. It's art. The written language is art. Really, really beautiful. I tried to learn how to write it, but it was the difficulty for me is extreme. So yeah, like I say, it's like art. I've never been really good at like drawing and stuff. Like I took art class and I learned how to draw faces and a couple of things, but I've never been very good at like that kind of art where you have to like draw it or write it like that. I doodle, but my doodle doesn't look like Arabic, I'll tell you that. So I don't know if y'all can see this. Can y'all see that? It's too much light. So this is the opening. Surah 1. Al-Fatiha, the opening. It says, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and who go not astray. It says, Alif Lam Mim. This is the book. In its guidance, sure without doubt, to those who fear Allah, who believe in the unseen, are steadfast in prayer, and spend out of what we have provided for them, and who believe in the revelation sent to thee and sent before thy time, and in their hearts have the assurance of the hereafter. It says, they are on true guidance from their Lord, and it is those who will prosper. As to those who reject faith, it is the same to them whether thou warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. Allah hath set a seal on their hearts and on their hearing, and on their eyes is a veil. Great is the penalty they incur. Of the people there are some who say, we believe in Allah and the last day, but they do not really believe. Fain would they deceive Allah and those who believe, but they only deceive themselves and realize it not. In their hearts is a disease. So on one side of the page is English, and the other side is the Arabic. So what I'm reading is the English translation, and understand that translations tend to be a bit off a lot of times. Some stuff isn't even translatable, I ain't gonna lie. So to understand these kind of texts, it's a lot better to try to understand the original languages that they were in. Hold on, let me take this screen away. Maybe I can show y'all better. Give me a second. Maybe I can see better this way. Can y'all see this? Yeah, that's better. It's so cool. One of the coolest books that I own, without a doubt. This was my father's book. And I got it when he passed away. When he passed away, he had a lot of items, but I only grabbed a few of them. And this was one of them because this was one of his most cherished items that he had. So I got it, I kept it, and I've kept it all this time. My dad died in like 2001. Yeah, December 2001. And I basically had this put away. You can see it's still in really good condition. So yeah, let's read a little bit more. Where did I stop? It says, and Allah has increased their disease, and grievous is the penalty that I incur, because they are false to themselves. When it is said to them, make no mischief on the earth, they said, why we only want to make peace? Of a surety, there are the ones who make mischief, but they realize it not. When it is said to them, believe all the others believe, they say, shall we believe as the fools believe? Nay, of a surety they are the fools, but they do not know. When they meet those who believe, they say, we believe. But when they are alone with their evil ones, they say, we are really with you. We were only jesting. Allah will throw back their mockery on them and give them rope in their trespasses. So they will wander like blind ones to and fro. These are they who have battered guidance for error. But their traffic is profitless, and they have lost true direction. Their similitude is that of a man who kindled a fire. When it lighted all around him, Allah took away their light and left them in utter darkness so they could see. Deaf, dumb, and blind, they would not return to the path. Or another similitude is that of the rain-laden cloud from the sky. In it are zones of darkness and thunder and lightning. They press their fingers in their ears to keep out the stunning thunderclap, the while they are in terror of death. But Allah is ever round the rejectors of faith. The lightning all but snatches away their sight. Every time the light helps them, they walk therein, and then the darkness grows on them. They stand still, and if Allah willed, he could take away their faculty of hearing and seeing, for Allah hath power over all things. O ye people, adore your guardian Lord, who created you, and those who came before you, that ye may become righteous, who has made the earth your couch, and the heavens your canopy, and sent down rain from the heavens, and brought forth therewith fruits for your sustenance. Then set up rivals unto Allah, when ye know the truth. And if ye are in doubt as to what we are revealed from time to time to our servant, then produce a surah like thereunto you, and call your witnesses or helpers, if there are any, besides Allah, if your doubts are true. But if you cannot, and of surety ye cannot, then fear the fire, whose fuel is men and stones, which is prepared for those who reject faith. But give glad tidings to those who believe and work righteousness, with their portion in gardens, beneath which rivers flow. Every time they are fed with fruits, therefore they say, Why this is what we were fed with before, for they are giving things in similitude, and they have therein companions pure and holy, and they abide therein forever. Allah disdains not to us the similitude of things, lowest as well as highest. I kind of want to get to, it's been a long time since I've looked in this, so I don't remember. Kroger. So old Kroger. What is this? An old Kroger like plus rewards receipt. It was in here and used as a bookmark. Pretty interesting. I haven't looked in this thing in years. And this is the real bookmark thing. I think this is where I was reading because I like to use that as a bookmark. I must have been reading here. I'm looking for something, but I cannot find it. I'm going to come back to this because I want to look through this when I have time to find what I'm looking for. So let's go to Insta and we'll come back to this. Hopefully, I saw Doc send a share. He must have shared the page, so Doc must be in here somewhere. Maybe I can get Doc to send a message. Doc, if you're listening, send a message in the group chat to Doc and to Pat and Deuce so they can know the show is going, because I doubt if they saw the Facebook message that I sent. And my phone is not charging. It's dead. I'm playing with it right now and it's not doing nothing. I need to go get it fixed tomorrow. The charging port has been tripping for like a month now, and I've just been wrestling with it, and today it finally just stopped charging. I've been wanting to buy a new phone, but my kids and them all have the newest phones and stuff, and for me, I just don't really care that much as long as it works. Let's talk about this. Violent storms in California forced thousands to evacuate their homes and claims at least 14 lives.
Worth of rain in just the last 24 hours. 14 people have died at least.
We look at all this. You can see the impact there. Perhaps not surprising that the heavy rain and the flooding have forced evacuations. It's also making it tough for people who are actually trying to get to safety, as you can see in some of this video here.
Deadly weather in California, where many areas now have seen more than a month's worth of rain in just the last 24 hours. 14 people have died at least.
We look at all this. You can see the impact there. Perhaps not surprising that the heavy rain and the flooding have forced evacuations. It's also making it tough for people who are actually trying to get to safety, as you can see in some of this video here.
Deadly weather in California, where many areas now have seen more than a...
So, Montecito is under complete evacuation, the entire town. This is the 5-year anniversary from the fire and mudslides that killed so many people, and people lost their homes, their lives. This is crazy. On the 5-year anniversary, we're having unprecedented rain. This creek next to our house never flows, ever. Probably about 9 feet up, and it's been going ever 2 feet up. We have horses ready to evacuate. We need to be nicer to Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is not happy with us. Let's all do our part. Stay safe, everybody. Yikes.
So Ellen shows creek near her house. She says never flows, but is flowing now amid the California flood watches. It says press play. The Shade Room posted this. 90% of Californians are under flood watches as violent storms force thousands out of their homes. Yeah, California is feeling it with this. I think it's something that people should pay attention to. The flight's grounded. Let me see. Do I have more on California? I don't see it. I think I have a video, but I'll go back to it. Let's play this. I don't want to get y'all upset, but this is pretty sad right here. It says, this caught my eye, so that's the reason why I'm going to freaking cover it. It says, woman reveals her father reportedly committed suicide because she married a black man. It says, when people ask how your dad died and you tell them he unlived himself 4 days after you got married because you married a black man, and now half of your family doesn't talk to you because they blame you.
Me. Horrified looks from everyone in the room, eyes on me. Horrified looks from.
I don't know why they put so much music in this stuff. It's so annoying. D.L. Hewley posted this. It says, Deja Monet, get into this socialites. A woman revealed on TikTok that her father allegedly committed suicide after she married a black man. She claims her family blames her for his tragic death. Megan McElrath's video is currently trending on TikTok with over 1 million views after she revealed the reason why her father died. I don't know why the TikTok video wasn't here. I thought it was. Maybe it was after all that music, but I don't know if I'm gonna wait for that. It says in the video clip, she writes, when people ask how your dad died and you tell them he unlived himself because you married a black man, and now half of your family doesn't talk to him because they blame you. In the caption, Mick Elroth added, and that's on family trauma and racism. Really putting myself out there for this one. The video had over 219,000 likes with 6,446 comments, where TikTok users shared different opinions regarding the details of her father's death. One user wrote, please don't let yourself believe that that's the reason. He was severely mentally ill if he did that. Don't take on that blame. Hugs, hope to you. Other users offered empathetic advice and said Mick Elrath shouldn't blame herself for her father's suicide, as he could have suffered from other issues. Really sad right here. Let me read some comments. It says, wait till he finds out Jesus is black. Oh, wait till that's a dumb comment. The dude is not here no more. Another comment says, I'm sorry if this is true, then that's a huge level of hate gone from this world. I see nothing else. Man, y'all should have more compassion for people who take themselves out, because they were definitely hurting. Another comment says, shout out to her for choosing a man that loved her. Another comment says, what he gonna do when he finds out that Jesus has a Jerry curl? What's up with those comments? Another one, it says, that man took his life because he had serious mental health challenges that had nothing to do with this young lady. Another comment, I hope in their worst moments, she healed enough to never use that against her husband in an argument. The trauma of losing someone to suicide is heavy. You don't want to project your pain and pass that heartache along. That's an interesting comment right there. I could totally see that coming up. It'll be coming up in conversation all over the place. But if she's smart, she'll stay away from that, because it would be sensitive for her and sensitive for him. And then I always feel like suicide is selfish as hell, because you hurting all the people that cared about you. You know? That's so terrible. So he's got a grandkid right here in this picture that he's never going to freaking be a part of that child's life. That's his blood. Regardless, if he doesn't like black people, then whatever. But his grandbaby is his blood. So you hating your blood? You hating your loins? You hating your lineage? Now that's crazy. There goes another Jesus is black comment. Let me read another comment. It says, some things are family business. It said another one. It says, well, at least he'll be down there with his people. Oh, that's harsh. You know, a lot of religious people feel like if you committed suicide, then you're automatically going to hell. Another comment, it says, he could have just disowned her like normal people do. I mean, right? I mean, that happens a lot. Shit. They find all kinds of reasons to disown their family members. If they're gay, you know, they want to have a baby with somebody outside of their race. This happens all over the world. Let me read this one. It says, social media is weird. People are publicly sharing their traumas while bypassing actual healing like it's nothing. Her dad and family probably had more going on, but none of this is our business. I agree with that. I mean, it's not. But her sharing it is cool because, you know, I mean, we get a good example of, you know, how extreme people can really be, you know. And what did you accomplish by killing yourself? I mean, you know, that, like I say, that's a cop-out and it's really weak. So you just didn't want to face the situations like somebody at work or your neighbors or somebody like, oh, your daughter married a black guy. Like, what's up with that? Like, you just couldn't deal with those conversations. That's way too much hate in your heart. Let me read another one. It says, the man took his life because he wanted to. No gun was put to his head by anyone she was with. Racism and severe mental illness is the reason why he's dead. I hope their love story continues despite this horrible tragedy that could have been avoided. Another comment, it says, rest in racism. Another comment, it says, so me being me, that doesn't add up. There were deeper issues than just that. Having said that, her marriage may have been what tipped him over. Either way, we can't talk about Black people, men's mental health, and increasing suicide rates and celebrate someone else's suicide. You cannot. I love that comment. Great comment. Another comment, it says, would have kept that to myself. I think it's good that she shared it. I think people do need to see this kind of stuff. You know, it is none of our business. But at the same time, like, people being so racist that they're willing to kill themselves. Wow. That's a story that needs to be heard. That's a story that needs to be shared. Because maybe someone, I don't know, someone will make a different decision. Maybe someone will reach out to someone. Maybe someone will feel like, you know, I was thinking about doing that, but now I see somebody actually did it and it was really fucked up, and maybe I won't do it. I think I appreciate her for sharing this story. Another comment, it says, the hate being expressed in many of these comments far exceeds the father's racism, sickening and disheartening. Yeah, some of these comments are bothering me too. Another comment, it says, if over my dead body was a person, hashtag his choice. Another comment, wait till get to the pearly gates and find out Jesus' blood. Why do I keep saying that? Another comment, it says, I'm sorry, but may he rest in hell. If he was that consumed with hate for Black people, there is no room for hatred in heaven. Another comment, it says, if he did that, he probably already had some other deep mental health concerns. I wouldn't blame myself. Yeah, I think that the dude definitely has some mental health issues. Like, anytime you off yourself, you really got to be hurting bad. What's up, Doc? Send a message in the group chat to Doc. If you can, send a message to in the group chat that we're live, because I couldn't do it. My phone is dead. Hopefully we can get Doc and Pat and Deuce. They probably didn't see the Facebook message. Yeah, this is a horrible story right here, man. I can't really say anything good about this. I ain't gonna lie, it's getting me kind of choked up. I'm about to tear up. I don't want to see nobody die, you know? And then someone so filled with hate that they're willing to take themselves off of the earth just because their child decided to marry someone that was outside their race. Oh my God. And then I see a lot of stories. This happens all around the world. India, Japan, where they might just kill her. Like, and in some of these Asian countries, freaking China, they'll kill the daughter. They'll kill her. So I guess it's better that he offed himself instead of killing the daughter. Either way, this is really getting me kind of choked up right now. Like
I need to know more.
I don't know much. I mean, we could pull this up, but the thing is, it was a
Like I
TikTok.
said, I saw the TikTok and she was doing it, and I'm sorry, it is pretty bad taste. All smiley in the way she was to be saying that her dad killed herself simply over her marrying a black man. There is no way that's what it was for. That might have been a trigger, but that was not the reason.
A lot of the comments are saying that he was obviously mentally going through some mental stuff, and maybe this was like the tipping point, you know?
Exactly, tipping point.
You never really know why people off themselves. It's really difficult to really distinguish that. But you know, if she feels that way, it's her father. So I mean, she knows her father better than others. I mean, they probably had some conversations related to this. There's a reason why she came to that conclusion. You know, and what's really sad about that is how she feels and how the husband feels. I mean, like, they have to have, you know, feel some kind of way as a result of it. You know what I mean? Like, they have to feel like they had something to do with it, is what I'm saying. Like, anyone offs themselves like that, that's really close to you, and you feel like maybe you could have done something to prevent it, you know, that's going to mess with you for a long time. Like, they all need therapy. I hate to hear stories about mental health. I hate to hear stories about people offing themselves. I hate it so much.
Okay.
Regardless.
I managed to get the direct StreamYard link into the group chat.
All right. Appreciate you. Yeah. So what do you think about this story, though, other than that? What you were saying? I didn't see the TikTok. I've only seen them talking about
that's
it.
the TikTok right there.
And it's
see how laughy and smiley she is while she's saying this horrible thing. That is for views. That is using her dad's mental health issue for friggin' views, and that's disgusting.
I don't think so, man. I don't know anything about it, but I know that people deal with trauma in different ways. You can laugh or you can cry. You know, you choose one or the other. You know, she's probably really hurting. I mean, it was her dad. You know, but
that's beg for cred.
I mean, you know, I like to look at the positive side of people. I like to assume that people are generally good.
I'm positive that she's doing it for cred.
Yeah. I really hope not.
I get it. I get what she's doing. I get the style she's doing. I understand what you're thinking, which is exactly what she's telling herself. But she's using her father's pain to promote herself and her TikTok.
Yeah, but what does she get out of it other than views? I mean, that's not, you know.
Views, which lead toward a viral load, which lead toward sponsorship and people giving you advertising and stuff like that.
Yeah, either way, it's terrible.
I've gotten a package or two already. People wanting me to wear a t-shirt or a hat or something like that while I'm on the show.
Well, ain't nothing wrong with that. Shit, do it.
I will when a company that I agree with or like or believe in offers me, I will do it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Some many shows ago, I was talking about that. If anybody wants to send in something, you know, like I drink tea a lot. I usually drink tea on the show. So if y'all send me some tea, I'll probably drink it on the show if it's worth.
Hey man, Lipton peach iced tea is my favorite bottled tea right now.
Yeah, well, I like hot tea.
Goes great with vodka.
I'm drinking scotch right now. I was feeling some kind of way. I'm really tired too. I worked all freaking day. That's the reason why I'm late getting on the show, because you know, I had a late table that wanted to hang the hell out. Like I said, I've been there all day, and I was kind of in a crabby mood. I almost didn't do the show because my phone's not working.
Love those guys. Those are the ones that always come in 10 minutes before the end. And then the kitchen's mad at you because they don't want to order, and they get mad when you rush their order.
And And you know, at the restaurant that I work at, it's a mom and pop, and he relies heavily on his regulars, so he lets them hang out. It's like that's part of the whole thing. Like we don't tell nobody to leave.
Oh yeah, we closed at 8 one night, and at 10:10, I was cleaning off the last table for a guy.
Yeah, it really sucks. The table I had was there well past close,
and for a $6 tip.
Well, they took care of me, but they were there for a long ass time. I still don't feel like it was worth it. But
yeah, they came in 10 minutes before midnight, had spent $40 and left a $6 tip.
Yeah, that's just terrible. So shout out to everybody who does. Please don't do that. If you do that, take care of your server, because that's kind of rude.
Remember, man, if you come in that late at night, we've been there all day. We want to go home too.
Yeah, we got families too, man. We do work in a restaurant, but we have families.
And if you don't know where you want to go, and if you want to go hang out, ask your server. I guarantee you, your server will know of a bar or a club nearby that you can go to for whatever your particular taste is.
I'm telling you, man, if you want to go to a bar, go to a bar. Restaurants are not bars.
I know where good bars are. I know where sports bars. If you want a karaoke bar, if you want one that you can just hide in a corner and be invisible. Like I say, I can send you wherever you want to go and be happy. Heck, I'll even let you follow me.
And you can hang out there till at least 2 a.m. here in Texas, and even later at the after hours joints. So, you know, that's rude to do it to the restaurant, y'all. Don't do that.
And we're mom and pop too, but we are on Florida time, you know, like old people and their parents. So, you know, we close at 8 on the normal nights and 9 o'clock on weekends. So, and we still got people trying to come in at last minute.
Those are good hours, because I used to work at a restaurant where sometimes I didn't get out of there till after 2 a.m. And I made really good money at this job. It was when I was young. And I made really good money at that restaurant because it was like an extra shift. It was like a third shift because it was right in the theater district. So people would come after the theater.
After the play. Yeah, those are always nice ones. Couple of wines, nice crisp little tip on top of it.
Yeah, they usually come in, they get desserts and you know, after dinner drinks or whatever. You know, like I said, I made really good money. But getting out after 2 a.m. sucks. You can't even go to a bar. You're screwed, you know. You know, it's nothing left.
I used to be at one. We'd get out. We'd hit the street about 1:40. I will have already called the bar down the street and said, "Hey, man, we're going to be in just at last call. Have this, and this ready on the counter." And sure enough, they would, man. And we took care of them for it.
Yeah, that was good money, but I'll never do that again. The reason why ever since then, I would look at the hours of the operations of the restaurant, and if they close any time past 10, they're off my menu for working there. Yeah, because all money ain't good money. I got another racial clip here I want to play. This has been making its rounds for a while now, and I don't think I ever even listened to it. Let's listen to it here.
Against the Black American community, and that you don't see how effective anti-Black disinformation and misinformation is at getting immigrants to align themselves with whiteness, which history is full of examples of when this has been done to the detriment of Asians. And while we're on the topic, both communities have diaspora wars and have conflict between their genders. And who do you think is benefiting from that, if that's not also about getting people to align with whiteness against their own self-interest? Bro, this is not the flex that you think it is. You're just showing how much you don't understand how the United States uses immigrants from any country of any skin color as a wedge against the Black American community, and that you don't see how effective anti-Black disinformation and misinformation is at getting immigrants to align themselves with whiteness, which history is full of examples of when this has been done to the detriment of Asians. And while we're on the topic, both communities have diaspora wars and have conflict between their genders. And who do you think is benefiting from that, if that's not also about getting people to align with whiteness against their own self-interest?
So it says, ironically, even African immigrants don't want to be associated with Black American culture. They say that says a lot about what's going on. So that's what this one is. It's interesting to me because it seems like a lot of the immigrants, in the politics, they were talking about how they want all these people to come here, all these immigrants to come here so they can vote Democrat and help the Democrats and stuff. But that is not reality, because I see a lot of immigrants vote conservative. A lot of them are Republicans. A lot of them, are anti-immigrant. Like, it's really crazy how they come over here, and then after that, they don't want nobody else to come over here or something.
Well, what happens is the first couple of times they vote Democrat. And then when they realize that the Democrats really aren't on their side, they turn around and start voting Republican because it aligns more with them financially and ability to move up and not having to be part of all this weirdness going on. I mean, that's historically been it. That's why Democrats want a continuing flux of new immigrants coming in on a mass level, because they only vote Democrat the first few elections, and then the majority do tend to lead toward voting conservative. They started talking about that. I remember them talking about that back in the as early as the 90s.
Yeah, so I mean, and especially their kids tend to be ultra conservative. First generation immigrant, and then they're really ultra conservative. So I want to play some of this, and we'll chop it up about it.
And for the record, with all my immigration stuff and things, I gotta say, the dreamers, the kids who were brought here, half of them don't even know their original language, came up through the schools, have lived here, and don't really know anything else.
They're American.
They're American. Let them friggin' stay here. Stop fighting over that shit.
It's crazy. They're American. They're all the way American, without a doubt. American. They wouldn't even fit in.
There is nowhere to go back to. If they were sent back home, they would be treated as a foreigner and a victim.
They would be treated like an American, because
that's not even that. Well, they're not American, but they're not one of us, so they wouldn't be treated like either one of them.
They wouldn't fit in.
They couldn't go to the American expat area or anything like that because they're not American, and their own people won't accept them because, well, they're friggin' American. And like I say, there's a good 20 to 40% of the same dreamer family kids, their parents deliberately did not teach them their native language so it wouldn't slow them down in the future.
And they gave them names like Tom, Tim, Sally. And they're like straight Thai or straight whatever, Chinese or something. This segment right here is really good for this topic, because I watched this segment, and this is the reason why I like Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar so much, is because Crystal comes from the left, Sagar comes from the right, and they tend to argue on certain topics that they really don't agree with, and immigration is one of the ones. But what's crazy about this is, Crystal's family is from here or whatever, at least a few generations. I don't know how many generations back you can go for her to not be here, but Sagar is like, his parents were immigrants, and I think he was born here. I'm not sure, but this dude is really hard on immigrants, and this is the perfect little, this is what it is right here all the time. And so they're going to talk about immigration here. And the second half of the clip, they basically just argue about the topic. And then,
if I remember correctly, he's not against immigration. He's against illegal and unchecked immigration.
Yeah, that's what he says. So his family,
remember, I have to stand and correct that statement for myself a lot of the times too.
Yeah, that's what he
You'll call me anti-immigration. I'm like, no, I'm not anti-immigration. I'm for controlled, moderated immigration.
Well, it just sounds really weird to me. Him being an immigrant, his parents being immigrants, and him being so hardcore on immigrants. Okay, and that is what he says all the time.
Yeah, they came over. They went through all the steps. It took them years and years. I know a lady from Scotland. Took her 8 years to finally be able to be a citizen.
Yeah.
And she gets mad when they want to give citizenship to everyone crossing the border right now.
That's what's crazy about that to me, is how hardcore they are on other immigrants.
Because it takes the entire thing about being a citizen, becoming a citizen, the work, the time, the effort, the money, everything they put in it means nothing now, because they're just going to give it away to other people. People who don't go through the process, people who don't try to learn the language, people who don't want to fit in culturally, they just want to go and create their a new barrio in a new country.
Yeah, but I don't think that they should have to I don't like assimilation anyways. I don't like that word. It sounds like the Borg from Star Trek. So, but people
it's called a melting pot, not necessarily assimilation. We get here and we share our cultures, we share our histories. It becomes something that is not just where you come from, but uniquely American in the point that it is made from everywhere in the world. And we take little bits from here and there and make something entirely new out of it.
I love that about America. I love that.
That's why the whole cultural appropriation argument takes me the frick off.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love the idea of, that's what makes us strong, really. All of like here in Texas is a good example. Like here in Houston, you can get authentic foods from all over the world. We have restaurants that serve authentic indigenous foods from all over the world. And the reason why is because we have such a huge amount of, vast different cultures here. That's definitely a plus. I mean, bland, unseasoned, like all just one culture is gonna be boring. We have an advantage that a lot of cities in the United States don't have, and all of these different foods that you can have here. It's really, really, really cool. And that's as a result.
It's freaking wonderful. As a white person, I'm so fucking glad I can get other cultures' food. It's nice to have seasoning.
It's so nice. So, but anyways, I want to play some of this because they're finna argue about immigration. And what I want to focus on here, because the part that really kind of like got me, like I said, is how hard Saagar is on immigrants, and he's a child of immigrants, and he's super ultra conservative. Let me play some of this.
Some of the reporters and others are attacking.
Come on, I don't want these problems today.
The Biden administration for effectively recreating Trump's policy.
Yeah.
Come on. And I wanted to talk about how
and the Biden press secretary just completely
Biden and expanding Title 42, and how he's basically saying, what is it? It's Haitians. It's two other groups. It's Haitians and two other groups. I can't think of them right now. That he's like, no asylum. If they come across the border and try to get asylum, that it's a no-go. And when he took a trip to the border recently, which he hasn't been the whole time he's been in office, and he didn't freaking have any meetings with any immigrants. He just went there for fucking photo ops. I hate it.
Well, remember, Miss Harris is supposed to be taking care of the border right now.
Yeah, well,
that's her job.
Okay, yeah, well,
how do you think he's going to use it to dump her for the next election? All them people that were trying to set her up to take over for him are like, man, we got to keep this guy on his feet for 4 more years now.
4 years?
Well, yeah, 2 to get to the end of the term and 2 more to get into the next term. So whoever his vice president is can take over, go 2 years, and then still be eligible for 2 full presidential terms.
Well, there's a growing segment of that doesn't want Biden to run again. They're already doing ads, TV ads, radio ads, and they're trying to push for, Biden not running and him getting primaried before this next presidential election. And I think that will be really interesting. Not only that, I think it would be good for the Democratic Party if they did that.
Well, something big happened in the Democratic Party, big enough that the 2 oldest Democrats just stepped down and said, yeah, here, young guys, here, take over the party. We're going to go sit on the millions that we've made while we've been in Congress.
I'm telling you. And then the whole thing with the ethics committee and the stuff that came out about all the insider trading that's going on, a lot of that's coming out. And especially on the Democratic side.
Well, conspiracy theory does say that Pelosi's husband getting attacked had something more to do with some undercover and shady stuff going on between Congress and business than it had to do with him just randomly being attacked.
Yeah, well, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. He's been trading a lot and he's been winning a lot. And then it's like, of course, this dude's got insider information. His wife is in Congress. What was it? It was the tech thing. Something with tech happened. And like all the Democrats.
Just recently, he bought big. He bought big into NVIDIA. And about a month afterwards, she went over there. No reason for her to have gone over there, really. She just kind of went over there and was talking with all the business leaders and stuff of the country that happens to have the NVIDIA headquarters. And then, lo and behold, something happened in Congress, and all of a sudden, NVIDIA made a lot of money. And so did her husband.
Yeah. And then they had the shit that they did with the chips.
That's the one that made people look and go, hey. Yeah, that's the NVIDIA's the video. It makes the video cards. They're a major chip manufacturer of a lot more than that.
Okay, yeah, the chips,
and
mistaken, then the whole
some
thing.
Of their technology is majorly used in Bitcoin mining too.
And then you got Taiwan. So a lot of the chips being made in Taiwan, and then Pelosi took that trip to Taiwan where they was all like, "No, don't do that. That's going to cause problems with China." She did it anyway.
I was trying not to name countries.
and then they passed that Chip Act or whatever it was, and then boom, that's another situation where money being made.
Like the meme says, I'm not worried about the taxes of the billionaire who becomes the politician. I want to see the tax returns of the poor people who have become millionaires while in Congress.
Pelosi dress is very nice. All designer gear. Can I get this plan?
I mean, that's like 44, his estimated value when he got into politics or got into the White House was $300,000. Say right at the end of the COVID thing, he had that party in his nice little, $32 million mansion. in Martha's Vineyard. I mean, that's a nice little. That's not chump change, you know.
Not at all.
That's even if he did somehow get a loan for it, that's a pretty big mortgage, man.
Yeah, buddy. Got money to pay that mortgage. They did do that. They did books and they did the movie and all that too.
Oh yeah, I mean, she got like 20 or 30 mil out the gate for the book. So did he.
And
he
then
gets something like six figures. He gets like $100,000 or more
speaking
just for showing
engagements.
up to talk somewhere.
Yeah, those
and not
speaking
even a
engagements.
big talk.
Just go over there and talk some boo boo, and then he gets paid a lot. Yeah.
Some of the reporters and others are attacking the Biden administration.
Come on. Oh.
For effectively recreating Trump's policy. And the Biden press secretary just completely crumbled when faced with that. Let's take a listen.
Just following up on the border. I spent a long time covering immigration stuff during the Trump years. I never saw more damning quotes from immigration advocacy groups and human rights groups during the Trump years as I saw yesterday towards this administration. Just reading one to you, Eleanor Acer, who's one of the leading advocacy people and heads up the refugee.
Oh my God. I don't know what it is with this. It's so annoying. I apologize, you guys. That little rolling
green screen uses extra resources. You know that.
Yeah. Is that why is my shit freezing like this? This is really freaking bothering me.
It looks to me like your system is stressed. Because you're moving a little bit slowly, you're running a little choppy. You might need a reboot.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe if I turn off the green screen, that'll help. Let's see.
How many windows you got open?
I only have 2 extra windows open, Instagram and YouTube. Go ahead. Say something. I'm a reboot.
All right. I'll just stand here and look ugly. All right, so hopefully Pat will be in here pretty soon. I'm going to see if I can't get him talking about Biden's missing documents. Say Santos is being asked to resign by Republicans. Say planes and trains and automobiles, everything sucks right now. Planes got stuck last week. Amtrak got stuck for 30 hours this week.
Yeah, I want to cover that. I have some about the planes. I really do want to talk about that. And what was the first thing you just said? I wanted to cover that too.
The Republican Santos, who lied about his background, was asked to resign.
Yeah, I want to touch on that
Airplane flights are grounded due to software issues, which I wonder if is actually an attack on our transportation grid.
What they said that it wasn't no criminal attacks. And you know, on that topic, they said, but I don't think so. I think that it's them. And then like I think about this totalitarian state, and I think about COVID, and I think about all the restrictions, and I think about like international flights are the ones that they really freaking have a problem with this stuff. They said no international flights. And you know, I wonder if they're just lying about that, and it's just another way to freaking keep people from moving around. Like,
So, you know, Biden's people found a whole bunch of missing documents from when he was vice president.
Yeah, I saw that too. I kind of wanted to touch on that.
The Harris County jail leader resigns out of nowhere.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Robin Williams, the sheriff or police person nearby here, I think near Houston. She's going to run for Houston mayor. She is now in jail for beating her husband up. Supposedly using multiple times, supposedly using her baton and a taser.
Damn.
This is a president who understands that.
Come on. Fuck.
Safe and legal immigration into the.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know how much I'm an internet person, so that little scroll that happens bothers me a lot.
This country is a key cornerstone of our own security and prosperity.
clearly you can see that they just can't handle any questioning on this whatsoever. And it highlights what you were discussing, which is, look, the border's been a problem for them since day one. They basically have had no idea.
I'm sorry, y'all. Come on.
What to do. They kind of fought Title 42 in court, then they couldn't, and now they're recreating the Remain in Mexico policy for 3 more
They're
of the countries.
expanding it. They're not recreating it. They're expanding it.
So they're expanding Remain in Mexico. And by the way, I support Remain in Mexico. I think it's probably the best solution outside of the judges. I don't think, we should just allow people to come here willy-nilly. But the point of all of this, I want to say, is that whether you're left or whether you're right, this is full-blown, pure hypocrisy. And frankly, I don't think it's actually going to help him in any way. I think it's clear what's happening here. He's going to run for president again. He knows the border is a huge problem. Mm-hmm. He's trying to recreate Trump policy, but kind of appease like liberals who effectively want like open borders. And he's like, well, what do I do here? I'm going to try and, create some sort of third way. But here's the thing. No Republican is going to trust Biden on the border after 2 years of what we've been happening down there. And I also don't think he's going to get any particular credit with the left or even with Democrats for attacking it this way. And there's also a very cowardly visit, I think, in my opinion, going to just El Paso ahead of his trip to Mexico. We're about to talk about what's happening in Mexico right now ahead of its visit. But look, I mean, even Trump did more, actually, even Obama did more of an effort in actual visits down there. I mean, to the Biden administration, who have they sent? Kamala Harris down to the Northern Triangle? I mean, it's just not been a seriously treated issue.
But part of what happened is that Obama thought if he was super hardline on immigration and, deporter in chief, which he was, that would give him the political credibility to strike a deal with Republicans on immigration reform. And Republicans don't want to strike a deal on immigration reform. They like the issue. They like being able to send cameras down to the border and show thousands of people sleeping under a bridge or whatever. They like going down to some country and finding a caravan and like freaking people out before midterm elections. They like having this issue remain unsolved. And so I have all kinds of issues.
I agree with I have, I'm the disclaimer. I come from the left. So I agree with Crystal Ball on this in a lot of ways. Like I really sympathize with her on this.
No, I agree completely with her with exactly what she said. Both sides kind of stir it up a little bit.
And they both stir it up.
But
they use it for political capital one way or the other.
I will say that the right is actually trying to do a little more than the left is about, at least do something,
With Biden and this policy, I think, again, Title 42 is absurd at this point. The idea that this is like justified by the pandemic is stupid. People have a right to claim asylum. The countries that we're talking about, let me give you the 4 countries that we're talking about here where the bulk of the migrants are coming from. It is Cuba,
come on.
Nicaragua, Haiti, and Venezuela. Okay, 3 of those 4 countries we right now have massive sanctions on, which are part of why people are so desperate. It's not the whole story, but it's a big part of why people are so desperate and wanting to come here in the first place. And Haiti, our hands are dirty. I mean, the dude we're propping up in Haiti may have had something to do with the last prime minister's death.
Here's the thing. Does that mean every person that the U.S. has ever interfered with has a right to come here? Like by that standard, anyone from Iraq should have allowed to come to the United States.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people from Iraq who should be allowed to come to the United States.
But they don't share a land.
having a land border? What does that have to do with anything?
Okay,
Sager?
do you have a bunch of people running off your internet right now, off your wireless?
Yeah, probably because it's multiple people in an apartment, and yeah, we have a router, and yeah.
Are you plugged directly into the router?
I'm not. I was thinking about that, but my
You
router's
should
in the living room, and I'd have to run a long ass cord in here to do that. I was thinking about doing that. I might start doing that. I might just go ahead and invest in a cord.
You can also get an extender that has a Cat 5 cable in the bottom of it, and you can just plug it into a wall socket, set it up, and it like extends your wireless signal, but you can also plug your Cat 5 directly into it. And while it's not as good as directly to your router, you do get a steadier signal using it, because I was doing that before.
Yeah, I'm gonna just get a long ass cord and do
your computer reads it as a direct connection, so it kind of throttles up a little more.
Send me a link on that. What items I could use for that?
Look, there's two things here. Number one, I'm pointing out we are to blame for a lot of the misery in these countries that is causing people to want to flee in the first place.
So she's making the point that, and this is a point I make all the time, is that, we talk about these countries and them fleeing to the United States. And I'm like, well, not the whole blame. And that's what she's arguing. It's not the whole blame, but we definitely got to put some blame on the United States related to our meddling in these countries and, things that we do to force them to want to, leave where they are because the United States is making a mess. I was talking to somebody at work one of these days, and they're from Venezuela. I think that was today. And we were talking about the flights, and because she went to Venezuela and came back, and the drama she had to go through to go to Venezuela and back was like totally ridiculous. There's no international flights. You can't do any connecting flights from the United States to Venezuela because of the sanctions that are on there. So she had to fly to I don't know what she said. I can't remember now. It's like fly to one place and then fly to another place and then drive to Venezuela because that was the way she had to go to get there. Like, that's all the way freaking completely ridiculous. Like, what does that do? Because if you aren't legal, if you can't move, like if you don't have a legal passport or whatever it is, legal visa, whatever it is, you wouldn't be able to fly anyways. So giving them the hell on flying back and forth for what?
If you wanted to deal with the root of the problem, you don't think that a lot of the misery in Cuba is because of us or Venezuela?
I think some of it is their problem too. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, if you have people who have legitimate reasons to come here and are fleeing violence and chaos that, by the way, the war on drugs also helps to create, there are a lot of things we could do by changing our policy to make it so fewer people wanted to come here in the first place, because this is not like a fun journey that people want to undertake just for shits and giggles. That's number one. Number two, people have a right, if they have a legitimate asylum claim under our law and under international law, to file for that claim. The idea that the pandemic still now should change that is absurd at this point. But because you have Republicans who do not want to solve this issue, who like the fact that they can send cameras down there and create political upset about it at election time, you have an insane process, and then you end up for the Biden administration to signal to, the right and that they're, serious and whatever, not only recreating the Trump administration policy, but actually expanding the Trump administration.
Yeah, but I don't think that Republicans are the only people who love this issue. I think a lot of Democrats are very comfortable with the fact that millions of people can just come here illegally and stay, which I think is crazy and completely insane. And look, the idea that every crappy country on earth,
because what I see is,
well, then why don't they? They're also not. They're the ones who have effectively allowed catch and release and gone to bat for that program over the last 20 years.
Because that's what
No, that's not catch. That's catch
That's
and
what
release.
national law determines. And the reason why you have people who stay here so long is because of this backlogged immigration system. And by the way, the overwhelming majority of people who claim asylum do show up then for their court-ordered
That's
hearings.
the first court hearing.
But it's
not the actual
insane.
last one.
It's insane that you have years go by that people are here, and that's true.
Sure.
And by the time that you have people who've been here for years, then to say, okay, well, your claim is not proper and you have to be removed, yeah, that becomes a lot more difficult of a process. So listen, I just think it's an issue where there's a lot of dishonesty, where Republicans like the problem and don't actually want to solve it, and where a lot of our policy here in terms of sanctioning these countries exacerbates the issue so that we have more flows of migrants than we would otherwise. I'm not saying it's 100%. I'm not saying we're the only problem in these countries, but are we contributing to the problem in each one of these nations where the bulk of the migrants are coming from? 100%.
Yes, I just think that a lot of these countries have agency. Nicaraguans, Daniel Ortega, like we didn't create Daniel Ortega, he created Daniel Ortega. Like look, there are many countries in Central America which are doing fine. Costa Rica and many others. It's not like a complete cause on behalf of the U.S. They happen to be benefited by the fact that they can march here from across Mexico.
Costa Rica is not a good example, Sager, because Costa Rica is really freaking cool with the United States, and they really benefit from all of the tourism that comes from the United States to Costa Rica. Is one of the main.
They're still like mostly under English control too, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like basically a fucking English colony. That's not a good example.
Which I don't think is fair, actually, if you think about the rest of the country. I just look, this is a difference of opinion. I don't think you have a right to come here. And
come on.
Try a
asylum standards. They're
static
absurd. Like if somebody says
background instead of a changing background for your green screen.
Maybe I'll just turn it. How about I just turn it off? Hold on, y'all. Let me go to my settings, and I'm just going to turn the virtual background off to none. Let's see if that helps.
they're fleeing domestic violence. Look, I have a deep sympathy with anybody fleeing domestic violence. That doesn't mean you get to come to the United States. There's 1 billion people on Earth who are suffering domestic violence by one standard from the Human Rights Campaign. You're going to allow 1 billion people?
But do you agree that there are certain asylum claims that are justified? For example, you brought up Daniel Ortega, who is known to persecute his political enemies.
Okay, his political enemies, sure. But if you're an average economic migrant, maybe. And then, look, even the Biden standard.
I don't deny that there are a lot of people and human traffickers who exploit the fact that we have these massive backlogs in the system and bring people here basically on the promise that you're basically going to get to stay. You just have to say the magic words and you get to stay. There are 2 ways you solve that, because people do have a right when they have legitimate asylum claims based on our law and international law. They have a right to make those claims and have them adjudicated. There are 2 core issues here. Number 1, the way that we are screwing over these countries ourselves and making it more likely that you have more migrant flows. And again, you can look at the 4 countries where most migrants are coming from and see how much of a direct impact we ultimately have. And 2, if you end this backlog, which I know you also support, then you get rid of this effective loophole that enables people who don't have justifiable asylum claims to come here and feel like they're going to be able to stay indefinitely. To me, that seems like the 2 core issues. And, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of Democrats who are bad faith on this. There's Republicans certainly aren't interested in solving the problem. And so you end up with a disgusting humanitarian disaster like what the Biden administration is ultimately
I can agree that it's not fair to anybody. I mean, I have sympathy for poor people in another country who say, hey, if you pay $50,000, I can get you to America. Like, yeah, I have a lot of sympathy. My parents came into this country for very similar reasons, for economic opportunity. I get it. What I'm saying is the system has to be the system has to have some merit, and actually what you're seeing is that you have a deep suspicion of many people, including myself, of the entire immigration system, because I think it's been made a mockery of over the last 20 years, specifically with some of these policies. And I do want to say, Crystal, I hate to say it, but I do think a lot of people like the fact that millions of people are coming here illegally, because once you're here, we all know how difficult it is to get them out, and they want to legalize them, and I think they want to get them to vote. And I'm not saying this in a conspiratorial, like, racial way. I'm saying I think that they like the fact that people are coming here. They have the entire, you know, like, oh, immigrants are the people who have more children, so actually this is the way that we have to solve our demographic crisis. I think there's some.
I don't agree with that argument either, Sagar, because like I said earlier, it seems like they mostly vote they end up being very conservative anyways, like a vast majority of them. So I don't think that's a fair argument that the Democrats want to have all these illegals over here so that they can freaking vote Democrat. Like, how can you even vote illegally?
Like I said, though, they want them to do that because they do the first few times they vote Democrat.
Well,
and if they can get a big enough vote in to lock this stuff in that they're trying to do, they will push us to a no way to turn back now without having to completely redo everything, and stuck at a point where we have no choice but to spend tons more money because of the incompleteness of what they're doing.
Well, again,
green energy.
Even if that's the case, that would only work for one cycle or 2 cycles. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to work.
It
long
lasts
term.
about 10 or 12 years as the flow goes through.
You know, I just don't think that's a fair argument. I think because most of these,
that's just it. That's 2 senatorial terms. That's 5 congressional terms. That's mayors. That's governors. That is 10 years to make a change.
But that's
everything so far in that direction that there is no coming back.
But that's assuming that all these people that come over are going to automatically vote Democrat. I know for a fact that the ones that come from like Cuba and Southern Florida that come in, they
so
tend to
close.
vote.
It's so close right now that all it takes is a majority of them, 60% or so, to vote, and that's enough to tip.
But I'm saying the ones that come from Cuba overwhelmingly vote conservative when they come over here. Overwhelmingly.
After their first few times voting.
No, right away. These people are conservative all the way right away.
Well,
because they feel like they identify Democrats with communism, and a lot of the ones, you know, they have money, and they.
That's what I was going to say. Cuba, you're right, but that's not that many in the comparison of all the ones coming over.
I know it's a lot of damn Cubans.
I mean, we've been watching the Cubans. I used to live in Florida, man. Literally every 2 or 3 days, there was another, 90 people floating over on a raft made from milk cartons and shit like that.
No, I'm telling you, it's a lot. Cuba is right there. It's pretty damn easy to get here legally from Cuba.
I think 92 miles.
Yeah, that's a short little thing. You get in a little bitty boat, like you say, a homemade
But it's
raft.
also some pretty choppy water, and there's lots of sharks, if I know correctly, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it is. It's a dangerous trip, but it's a short trip, and a lot of them make it, and most of them vote conservative. As soon as they get here.
Most of them don't. They get drugged back.
Well, the ones that make it.
Yeah, 90% of them get drugged back.
I think they like that they're coming here. I do think that is conspiratorial.
Then why continue the policy?
Because you ultimately, I mean, the people who have really actually tried to come to some sort of immigration deal, which always includes more border enforcement and more border patrol, have been Democrats. I mean, they have been the ones who have actually offered some. Even Joe Biden offered some sort of package of here's how we're going to deal with this issue ultimately. And, there is no interest from Republicans in ultimately solving this problem. So I'm not washing Democrats' hands of culpability here, but I do think it's conspiratorial, this idea that they just want to like ship in a bunch of illegals and make them vote for Democrats. Latinos are not even voting for Democrats like overwhelmingly anymore. So the, racial demographic argument here doesn't even really add up anymore.
I don't even care about the racial part. What I'm really saying is that I think there's a lot of people who are very comfortable with the fact that millions of people get to come here illegally, and they are very okay with, I mean, look, non-starter for every single Democratic immigration
Who
deal is
voted?
comprehensive immigration reform, which effectively means every single person who's here illegally gets to stay and becomes a citizen.
Who
I have a big
voted-
problem with that.
Who voted ultimately for more judges to adjudicate these claims? I mean, this is actually something that the Biden administration was pushing. So again, the thing that leads to people staying here so long under the system is this backlog. That should be something everyone could agree on to ultimately solve it, but I see zero political interest ultimately in resolving the issue.
I do agree it will not happen.
Hey guys, ready or not?
And her argument of the backlog, you know, I really like that. And then it's like, you know, the reason why a lot of this is happening is because the system is totally foul and messed up. I played a video not that long ago. It was like 120 years or some shit like that, like 80 years or something like that for you to, you know, get through the whole damn process to become, oh yeah, well, you know, you could do it. It just take 120 years or something. I think that was the guy from the original Daily Show, Jon Stewart was saying that, and they were talking about how, like, you know, how long it takes to actually do it legally, you know. You know, it's just the red tape and just all of the bureaucracy related to it, and there's a reason for that, you know, and especially if you're from certain particular countries, you know, they just give you a really hard time. It takes a long time, and that's part of the system. Like, to say that all these people are illegal, well, they're illegal because the system is not actually being efficient enough to actually do the job. Let me read some comments. I really like this segment. It was great. I hate that it was all chopped up while I was playing it, but that's the reason why I like to watch this show, because it came from both sides, and I agree with some of I sympathize with some of the things Saagar was saying. You know, some of it is fair, but it's crazy to me how, you know, he's basically a child of an immigrant. He's so hard on the immigrants, but you know, she's coming from the left, he's coming from the right, you know, so that's the argument, and that's really good, and that is the discourse that we should be having on this topic, a real honest, fair kind of discourse about where they're coming from, and then each side kind of making their points or whatever, even though we maybe never come to a consensus necessarily on this, because people are very dogmatic about this particular topic. But I think that was one of their better segments that they've made in a while, I would say. It got 852K. Wait, no, that's not it. 86,000 views on this. That's good. Let me read some comments. It says, great content. Thanks for the debate. Please continue post debating. See, that was the first comment, and that's what I appreciate too, even though I don't necessarily agree with Saagar that much. But we need to hear both sides, and we need to hear, you know, rational, like, substantive arguments on these topics. Let me read another comment. It says, I'm down here in El Paso, and it's such a circus. For 3 days prior to Biden's visit, they had tons of BP officials and other people cleaning up the mess that has been there for the last month. Would have been so much better if he actually saw what we've been dealing with. You know, there you go with the photo ops. And if Biden really gave a damn about the immigrants or the people who were trying to get asylum, he would have went down there and had some freaking interviews with some actual people, you know, who are going through the actual struggle, and maybe hear what they're saying, you know. And I hate that about our media. We do not hear from the actual people. We only hear what the pundits are saying, and we only hear the narrative. We only see photo ops. Let me read some more comments. It says, Crystal really has a hard time with Saagar disagreeing with her. I think a lot of people on the left, one thing I don't like about the people on the left is how they feel like they're just right. And they feel like if you don't agree with me, you're just wrong. I think that's true on the right too, but it's just really, really, really strong on the left, where they're like, oh, you're just crazy if you don't agree with me. Like, I'm right. Like, that part does kind of bother me. And that is the attitude that she was having. It was kind of like condescending. Let me read some more comments. It says, I love it when Sager stands up to mommy. Another comment, it says, thank you, Crystal, for typically talking over the other side. Another comment, it says, this was one of your better segments. Good stuff. You made me see it in new ways. I think it was a good segment. I agree with that. Another comment, it says, the best part of these debates is when Sager starts speaking as fast as possible to try to get some of this point across before he is interrupted. Another comment, it says, not much of a debate when Crystal never lets Sager talk. She did cut him off quite a few times there. Another comment, it says, Crystal, Bernie was pro-border patrol before the 2016 election. This is a classic case of Trump saying something that struck a nerve with a lot of people, so the Democratic Party went far in the opposite direction.
Yep.
Another comment, it says, this isn't a debate, it's just Crystal talking over people again. I disagree with that one. Another comment, it says, nice to see Sager show some courage against KB for the first time in 2023, rare occurrence. Well, they try not to fight too much on the show. I mean, because we've done it here on this show, and it gets really freaking, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, emotional. It gets
personal.
It gets personal and gets painful. And like, because me and Pat argue all the time on this immigration topic, because, I come from the left side and he comes from the right side. And, sometimes, both of us get kind of.
I'm pretty close to the middle between the two of you in a lot of ways, I've noticed.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times it gets emotional to the point where he's really literally mad at me. And sometimes I'm really literally mad at him. And it's like, it's I don't know. It puts a strain on it. We're really friends. We're friends. And that's a good thing, though. Like why I like to do this show, and exactly why I love to have Pat on here, because we are friends, but we completely disagree on some topics. And I think that we all can be like that here in the United States. It's just that, the media in our echo chambers, we get uncomfortable when we have to face, the other side of whatever it is. And I think that we can understand, and that's why I think it's really important. And I really like that about this show that we do here, is that you can be friends and completely disagree on certain topics, because there's a lot of topics that me and Pat completely agree on. It's just a couple of them. Like this immigration one is one. We fucking argued for a whole week on this show about immigration, and it was painful at moments.
There's only a couple of topics that I will not have anything to do with you if you're on one side or another. And there's one or two that I won't participate in. If it comes up on the show and starts getting talked about, I'm just going to kind of like nope out.
Yeah, because it gets heated. And hopefully we can put our emotions to the side and actually have the conversation, because that's why I do this show, is because I'm trying to induce conversations with people who don't agree. And that's the only way we're going to move forward. Because, of course, it's going to be certain topics that we don't agree on, but that don't mean that we can't be friends, And me and Pat is a great example of that. We're friends, but he comes from the right, I come from the left, and we completely disagree on some topics, like to the point where we're like mad at each other and straight arguing on here.
But see, the argument I keep getting from a lot of people from the left, a lot of people that have, I'm like, dude, why did you unfriend me? Why do you walk out of a room when I show up now? He's like, well, some of the things that you believe in, I've come to realize that if someone believes that, they're not a good person.
See?
So since you believe that way, I don't think you're a good person, and I don't want to be around you.
And that's what the media is doing. It's causing this situation where just because we don't agree on something mean that we can't be friends.
Why do you think they took the first thing they did when all of this shit started was take away access to bars and stuff like that for almost a year? the place where people go to talk, where people of different ideas but common interests like sports go, and stuff gets talked about, stuff gets thought about, worked out.
And
everything's not that bad. They can see each other as a human instead of a bot behind a screen.
I completely agree with you. I think that was one of the big parts of what happened with the COVID thing, with people not wanting to, with them making it illegal basically for you to have gatherings,
And then they locked us in without alcohol for the first month. And then a lot of people started finding out they really didn't like each other as much as they did when they didn't have to be around each other all the time.
And so since COVID, this divide has become, we're even more polarized.
Dude, it has wrecked families. People were saying, everyone is saying there's no civil war. I'm like, yes, it is. It's a cultural war. And it's not really a war where the casualty can be counted in bodies, but the casualties can be counted in trust and in families, in friendships. I mean,
and that's what they want. They benefit from this. So that's why I say the people that I disagree with are the ones that I really want to talk to. The ones that I agree with, I don't see much, benefit from having these types of conversations, the ones that we have on this show with. Like, we're just preaching to the choir. Where are we getting in this? There goes the echo chamber on your internet, your algorithm, just feeding you the stuff that you agree with, and your perspective doesn't get impacted. Your understanding of the world doesn't change. It doesn't, we're not moving forward that way. We're getting further and further apart, and what I see? I see a stalemate is happening. It's just like, and then you can see it in the politics, how nothing is getting done. No real legislation is coming out that, that's good. The problems that we have, all of us have them. You know what I'm saying? But if we're arguing about transgender rights or something, then we're not moving forward in the situations where we all agree on. And really, it's economics. So, but that's the reason why they focus on the cultural stuff, because they use that to divide us instead of us looking at the economics.
And the funny thing, the transgender issue is, first of all, it's a states' rights issue. So it needs to be answered on state levels first. It affects less than 0.003% of the population. It's squeaky wheel right now. It's flash and fashion. It's, look at
how
me,
much
look at
impact.
me.
How much impact does that topic have on our actual life? Like, we all still.
There's a lot of issues about it and in it. A lot of it to do with mental health. A lot of things right now going on with them trying to allow children to transition and things like that.
And I got problems.
They're literally chemically castrating and sterilizing teenagers and preteens.
And
they can't buy alcohol, but they can take these life-altering drugs to change their gender.
Can't buy a gun and all this stuff. But
and I'm considered a bad person because I think that's child abuse.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Doc, on that topic. And then that's me coming from the left. And like I say, I think that a lot of us...
I'm cis white man, or at least they think I am.
And that's what you're the enemy. You're the enemy.
Dude, I've been part of the what would be considered rainbow community since I was in my teens. And like I say, it's not a weird thing or anything, but it's like I've done performances, I've done parades, I've been up on stage doing helping with drag shows and stuff like that. I mean,
and there's a consensus with this too, even because gay and lesbian people agree with a lot of this stuff that that we have a problem with on these particular topics. But still, I'm saying
you should watch Blair White. She's hilarious.
But still, what I'm saying is, what's happening at the grocery store? How much does it cost to get a loaf of bread? How hard is it to get, rent, to get an apartment? How hard is it to buy a house, You know, all these are the problems that all of us are having. You know what I'm saying? The wages. These are issues that we all have. This is what we need to be focusing on instead of these cultural wars that the media just gets us to be fighting on. Meanwhile, they're going out the back door. The corporations are still making money, and they're making more money than they've ever made. You know, meanwhile, the regular folks are screwed, and regular folks are black, white, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, gay, lesbian, straight, transgender, whatever the hell. We all got to go to the damn grocery store and spend all this money on a fucking loaf of bread. You get what I'm saying? But instead, we're focusing on those little freaking, I'm not saying it's not an issue. It is, but we have bigger fish to fry. We need to focus on that. And then maybe we can get to that later. You know, I'm not saying it's not important, but we have other things that's way more important to focus on.
That's what I feel about our foreign policy right now. I mean, the best thing that we have going about our foreign policy right now is that we don't have to be affected by our foreign policy.
And we don't have no say in it.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. We don't have to be one of the countries that gets affected by our foreign policy. That's the best thing about being American right now.
Yeah, but can only last for so long.
The truth is, I that's one thing I agreed with 45 with was America first.
And I agree with that
let's
too.
Back off the world stage. We're not going to stop helping. We're not going to stop participating. But we need the world to pick up and lead a little bit instead of leaning as much. And yeah, I know a lot of it is us pushing our nose into shit like that. And people are telling us, hey, we're tired of America sticking our nose in it. But what happened as soon as we pulled our nose out of world affairs? All of a sudden, everybody hated America. Well, excuse me. They hated the absence of our money.
Well, they're going to hate us either way. And then a lot of the interference that we does just creates more terrorism. So again, if we focus on America first, then we won't be creating terrorists. We'll be taking care of our people. That's what you can't be mad at any country around the world.
Heal thyself.
And you can't be mad at any country around the world for taking care of their people first. You know,
you can't take care of your family until you can take care of yourself.
Period. The end.
And the American family needs to be taken care of.
And that's the real reason.
I'm not saying taking care of like Big Daddy government needs to give everybody houses and checks and medicine and all that. It needs to find ways to help people get that all available for them. And I think at this point in time, internet should be a basic internet program should be allowed in all households at the cost of the government.
Yeah, I say that too. Wi-Fi should be free.
It used to be public libraries and stuff like that. We need more now.
It's a utility. It's totally a utility, and I think
I'm not talking high speed. I'm not talking about anything that's gonna like put a cramp on these businesses and people that are. You know, it doesn't have to be any faster than, say, that side Wi-Fi you get hanging out beside Starbucks.
And that's just one example, because you could talk about healthcare, you could talk about infrastructure, you could talk about jobs, you could talk about
healthcare. What we need to do is find some way to stop the health providers from robbing the insurance providers and keeping insurance prices so high.
And these are the topics that we need to be focusing on, and
There's
we're not.
A TikTok. I don't know if it came over our group or anything like that. I saw it and I can't find it again. It may be a reel. She's talking about how like she sprained her ankle or broke her ankle or something like that, and her total bill was $147,000 or $115,000.
Ridiculous.
And then when they found out that she didn't have insurance, all of a sudden, it was $6,000.
Freaking ridiculous. And this is the reason why you got people who storming the Capitol.
And this is why our insurance costs our insurance costs so much that it can't be afforded. You know, everyone's it should be free healthcare. It's like, hey, health insurance can be a reasonable price if we can find a way to stop that going on right there.
Yeah. So like I say, I don't condone the behavior of storming the Capitol, but I sympathize with it. And then you have the people who are, you have the people who stormed the Capitol, and then you have the people who completely have unplugged from politics and like, I'm not voting at all because they're not doing anything for me. I sympathize with them too.
They know who went into the Capitol with ill intent. They knew who went there for a tour and some selfies. They need to stop throwing the book at the tourists.
And this has world consequences because maybe we should go into this next. The what is it? Brazil, right? It's Brazil, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they just stormed their capital.
Right. And it was almost on the anniversary of January 6th. They had to freaking have planned that, and so like I say, this is real world consequences as a result. United States is a leader in the world, one way or not. I mean, like it or not, and they're always watching us, the other countries. And when we do things, then other countries tend to follow suit. So, like I say, this has world consequences. So, if we were taking care of America first, and the people weren't so disgruntled, then this wouldn't, influence other people around the world to do the same things. I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Let me see. What do I have? I think I have a video on this topic. The one with the Brazil. I think this is an important thing to talk about because what's his name? He's in Florida.
No.
He's in Orlando. The one who lost. Right now my brain is blank.
Dude, I just thought of something. Pelosi just retired. If she had kept her seat and stayed, she would have had to have given it up to make a presidential run.
So that's what you think she wants to do?
I think a couple of big, heavy key Democrats, big boys, big, heavy swingers just quit 2 years before an election when it's time to start gearing up and ramping. Things that they wouldn't be able to do were they burdened with their congressional duties. I might be completely wrong. I mean, some of this new stuff, maybe the Republicans coming in and having the ability to call investigations might have scared her away. But, like I said, it's only 2 years to go. She is a major contender.
If she was to run, I think so too. I mean, the establishment Democrats are definitely going to support her. And like I was saying earlier in this show, there's a huge push for Biden to not run, and that for him to be primary.
Breaking situation in Brazil. Thousands of supporters of ousted.
Pressing too many buttons.
Former President Bolsonaro storming the presidential and congressional buildings, demanding he be restored to power. The scenes reminiscent of January 6th here in the U.S. Many of the protesters there wearing the national colors of yellow, green, and blue. Riot police confronting demonstrators outside, firing tear gas. Officials say extra police have been mobilized to try to bring order. Some protesters ransacking offices, others appearing to steal equipment and calling for the military to intervene and overturn the election Bolsonaro lost. The former president, who has been called Latin America's Trump, is believed to be in Miami, skipping the inauguration of his leftist rival Lula da Silva, who defeated him in October's election. Late today, da Silva blamed Bolsonaro for the unrest. President Biden is now.
He's not in Miami. He's in Orlando.
Weighing in. ABC's Matt Rivers leads us off.
Tonight, democracy under attack in Brazil. thousands of protesters violently storming the country's presidential offices and Congress in the capital of Brasilia in an attack eerily reminiscent of what the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol looked like just 2 years ago. The protesters, all supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who was defeated in October presidential elections by current President Lula da Silva, inaugurated just 1 week ago. Violent rioters battling with police, firing tear gas in the air as they vandalized government offices, all claiming Bolsonaro didn't really lose the election. Fortunately, the government was not in session. Bolsonaro himself spent years sowing doubt about Brazil's election systems, even saying the recent results where he lost couldn't be trusted. Brazil's courts and independent experts say that's not true, and that was apparent when we traveled to Brazil to cover the race in October.
In a deeply divided election, Lula's supporters here say they're not just voting for his policies, but for the future of Brazilian democracy.
Bolsonaro's false claims of fraud, the driving force behind today's violence. Protesters demanding da Silva leave office, calling him an illegitimate president as they entered government offices for what some called an occupation. President da Silva saying tonight that he will immediately return to the capital and blaming Bolsonaro for inciting the violent attack with his claims of election fraud. It all looks and sounds remarkably similar to the events of January 6, 2021. Former President Trump is one of Jair Bolsonaro's self-proclaimed political idols. Bolsonaro joined Trump in denying the U.S. election results and seems to have followed Trump's political playbook to a T. Just like Trump's election lies contributed to the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol, we're seeing violence play out again, this time in the world's fourth largest democracy.
We know those images all too well. Matt
Worked that
joins us
all the
now
way
live.
around
Matt,
to being Trump's fault.
Yeah, and then
That was some great gymnastics.
Yeah, it was a couple of comments in there that but that goes the mainstream narrative. But this is still really important. And
well, you notice each time he said it almost like an attack too. Trump, Trump, Trump.
Yeah. So, but this is really interesting and important, I think, because Lula da Silva was trumped up charges is the reason why Bolsonaro got in there in the first place, because they knew he was going to win. They put him in jail. He went in jail. He got out because it was all bullshit. He ran and he won. And the same thing is happening in Peru right now. I was thinking about how the connections of this, because they ousted the Peru because they didn't want that guy in there for the same reasons as Bolsonaro. I mean, not Bolsonaro, Lula da Silva. And that's what's happening there now. It's like you could say in the past, like what happened in Brazil some years ago, is the same thing that's happening in Peru right now with them ousting their on some corruption charges. That's all BS. And the people aren't having it. They're like, that's bullshit. And we want new elections now. And the government's like, nah, we're going to wait till 2024 or some shit. And they're like, nah, we're not feeling that. And they got blockades. Let me see. I think I got a video on that. What do you think about that, though? The protesters storming Brazil's capital. Here's the Peru one. Let's play some of this.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
I'm Amy Goodman.
I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Well, Peruvian authorities have declared an overnight curfew in parts of southern Peru as mass protests continue following the ouster and jailing of leftist President Pedro Castillo. At least 17 people were killed Monday after Peruvian security forces opened fire at anti-government protesters in the city of Huayca. At least 2 teenagers were among the dead. 3 days of mourning are being held in the region. Some 40 people have died nationwide since mass protests erupted in Peru last month. Protesters are calling for Castillo to be released from prison and for his successor, Dina Boluarte, to resign as president.
We are demanding our rights. That rotten coup Congress let them get away with the genocidal Dina Boluarte. They do not represent us. They kill our brothers and sisters.
Protesters have set up massive roadblocks in southern Peru, calling for the resignation of the interim president, who had been Vice President Dina Boluarte. This is a protester speaking near the Peruvian-Bolivian border.
Right-wingers have ousted the government of our president, Pedro Castillo. The Peruvian Congress ousted him. The Peruvian people don't support Congress. We don't support newly appointed President Dina Boluarte. And we want her immediate resignation, the closure of Congress, and a new constitution.
On Tuesday, Peru's Prime Minister, Alberto Otarola, defended the use of force against protesters, accusing them of trying to take over an airport in Juliaca. Otarola also announced a curfew in the southern Puno region.
Compulsory social immobilization in Puno for 3 days, from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. to safeguard the life, integrity, and freedom of all the citizens of Puno.
Peru has been in state of crisis since December 7th, when the right-wing Peruvian Congress voted to remove President Castillo after he moved to temporarily dissolve the Peruvian Congress ahead of an impeachment vote. Castillo is a left-leaning former teacher and union leader from rural Peru who was president for less than a year and a half before his ouster. In 2021, he defeated Keiko Fujimori, the daughter of Peru's former dictator, Alberto Fujimori. Protesters accuse the Peruvian Congress of unfairly targeting Castillo ever since he defeated Fujimori. There are two guests with us right now. Eduardo.
So it says death toll tops 40 as security forces crack down on protests over President Castillo's ouster. So it just makes it worse when they kill the protesters like that. People are already feeling some kind of way. Let me read the caption. It says, "We go to Peru for an update after Peruvian authorities declared an overnight curfew in parts of southern Peru as mass protests continue following the ouster and arrest of leftist former President Pedro Castillo. At least 17 people were killed Monday after security forces opened fire at an anti-government protest in the city of Juliaca. And over 40 people have been killed across Peru over the last month. The human rights groups accused the authorities of using indiscriminate force against protesters. The country's crisis started in early December when the President Castillo attempted to dissolve Congress and rule by decree, resulting in his arrest and replacement by his vice president. We are joined from Desguadero, Peru, near Bolivian border, by Ali Vargas, a journalist with Cahuachahuacan News, who says protesters are demanding new elections, the resignation of Castillo's successor, Dina Boluarte, and the formation of the Constituent Assembly to draft a new constitution. A major contributor to the current crisis is the extreme weakness of the political system in Peru, in which many politicians lack any real connection to their constituents, adds Peruvian socialist Eduardo González Cueva. I'm going to read some comments. It says, the irony of the colonial settlers calling indigenous people invaders is beyond. Another comment, it says, enjoyed learning and listening about what is occurring in Peru. Killing protesters is not the solution, which are their own people. 17 people killed in one encounter reminds me of the civil rights movement in America during the 1960s era. They were brutal. Something similar going on in Peru. Beautiful land and people. Every human being under the sun has value, whether indigenous or not. Treat them with dignity and respect. Moreover, listen to the grievances, because this is one of the reasons they are in protest. Chavez, Venezuela, Morales, Bolivia, Castillo, Peru. It is easy to conclude that there are those who are determined to ensure that indigenous people must not aspire to and hold the highest office in their countries. Great comment right there.
Indigenous.
They really have a problem with that. Another comment, it says, may God protect the good people, giving them wisdom and support to bring down the evil that they are trying to take over Peru and every country. The people must rise up and fight. Another comment that says, didn't this exact situation play out in Bolivia in late 2019? Yes. Another comment that says, dear God, send your heavenly warriors and earthly warriors to protect and defend the people of Peru. Bind and remove the demons who have taken control over these humble servants and restore your people to power. In Jesus' name, I ask this. In Jesus' name, I receive this. And in Jesus' name, I thank you for this. Amen. It said Jesus' name 3 times.
Wasn't that what you're supposed to do?
3 times. You have to say it 3 times.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Gonzalez Cueva is a Peruvian sociologist and human rights expert joining us from here in New York City. And in Peru, we're joined by the Bolivian-based journalist Ali Vargas. He's a co-founder of Casachu News. He's joining us from Desaguadero, Peru, near the Bolivian border. We welcome you both back to Democracy Now! Ali Vargas, let's begin with you. Can you tell us what's happening there right now and give us the broader context of why this is all taking place?
Thank you, Amy. And yeah, I'm here in Desaguadero, Peru, which is in the Puno region in southern Peru, very close to the Bolivian border. And well, I arrived here yesterday, and my intention was to go to Juliaca, where the massacre took place on Monday. However, that is pretty much impossible because there's so many roadblocks, essentially barricades erected by protesters all along all of the roads in this region. It's not possible to really move about at all in any way. And yeah, every point there is huge numbers of protesters who have erected barricades, whether through metal sheets, giant rocks, and have essentially paralyzed the southern region.
Oh, that's really pissing me off. Anyways, you got comments?
Not really. I don't know a lot about the whole situation. I mean, but it looks to me, I mean, I don't know who did which bad thing to which people and all that stuff. But it looks to me like the guy that got ousted that they're upset about was going to dissolve Congress and rule by decree.
Yeah, but they're trying to oust him.
Well,
and it was really
it seems to be, hold on a minute. Cat?
They were trying to get him out of there, and it's really because of him being indigenous and looking out for the people, and it happens like this all over the world. Whenever a government comes in that's actually looking out for the people, then something happens to them. That's what happened to Lula da Silva. That's why I went to this. Very similar. He lifted more people out of poverty. He was saving the rainforest. He was giving them like health care and shit. It was like, no, we can't have that. And in Brazil, they got the security guy is in trouble. The top two guys that didn't protect the damn you know, they're arresting those guys. I think that's interesting too. Let me see. I think I got a good video. Let's do this overall Democracy Now! Here, and we can stop it as it goes because she touches on a lot of topics here.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Iran has sentenced 3 more people to death in connection with nationwide protests that have been ongoing since the September death of Mahsa Amini while in custody of Iran's so-called morality police. There have been 4 known executions linked to protests so far. On Tuesday, the United Nations slammed the executions as state-sanctioned killings.
Criminal proceedings and the death penalty are being weaponized by the Iranian government to punish individuals participating in protests and to strike fear into the population to stamp out dissent in violation of international human rights law. 4 individuals engaged in the recent demonstrations have been executed over the past month following expedited trials that have not met minimum guarantees of fair trial and due process required by international human rights law.
This week, protesters gathered
They don't
in
care
front of a
about that.
prison
They're
in the
under
Iranian
Sharia
city
law.
of Karaj, where some death row prisoners are being held.
And they basically can do whatever they want, but there is a narrative related to this. I ain't gonna lie, but you know, internationally, whenever they are putting protesters to death, internationally that doesn't look good.
The mother of 22-year-old Mohammed Gobadlo, who has been sentenced to death, is pleading for help to prevent the killing of her son, whom she says has a history of mental illness.
The court has fired his lawyers. They don't allow his lawyers to enter the courts. They are treating my child unfairly. They have interrogated him without an attorney present. And in that very first session of the court, they have sentenced him to death. Is this Islamic justice? In what court do they issue an execution sentence in the first session? And they want to execute the sentence equally quickly? Please, please help and support us.
Meanwhile, Iranian courts have sentenced professional soccer player Amir Nasser Azadani to 26 years in prison, and activist Faiza Hashemi, daughter of the former Iranian president Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, to 5 years, though her lawyer says the verdict is not final. In Ukraine, heavy battles continue around the eastern salt mining town of Soledar, close to Bakhmut, where intense fighting is also raging. Ukraine's military denied the claim by Russia's mercenary Wagner group that it took control of the town of Soledar, calling it a complicated situation. This comes as Russian strikes hit the eastern city of Kharkiv shortly after a surprise visit by the German and Ukrainian foreign ministers. Germany's Annalena Baerbock pledged further arms support to Ukraine, though did not say whether this would include the Leopard 2 tanks sought by Kyiv. Baerbock also committed to helping with Ukraine's bid to join the European Union. Meanwhile, the U.S. is increasing its military assistance with a plan to train Ukrainian forces to use the Patriot air defense system at Fort Sill, starting as early as next week.
I don't really like how Ukraine has been, Democracy Now! Has been covering the war in Ukraine very much. It seems to be overwhelmingly from the Ukraine side. Because there goes the freaking military industrial complex, and that shows who really is running the show. Because Democracy Now! Is supposed to be all independent in media and stuff, but for them to be as big as they are, I think that they have to, cover these particular stories in a certain way for them to not get mashed on.
But they also have to be able to get the information from them. And if they don't get the information from them, they can't report it. And, Russia's not exactly forthcoming with a whole lot of information.
Really, everything we're getting from both sides is all propaganda. Wartime propaganda is what it is. It's hard to figure out what the hell is actually really freaking happening without going there on the ground.
The United Nations says almost 14 million people in Ukraine have been displaced since Russia invaded 11 months ago. Nearly 8 million of those fled the country. 6 million have been internally displaced. In Germany, police have started violently evicting climate activists in the western village of Lützerath. Hundreds of activists have been occupying the deserted town for months to prevent the area from being mined for lignite, a highly polluting type of coal. Germany has increasingly turned to coal, blaming the loss of Russian gas and oil following its invasion of Ukraine. Protesters say they're prepared to risk their lives and are calling for activists from around Germany and the world to join their resistance.
Yes, we believe that we can hold out for several weeks, 6 weeks. We also believe that if there are a lot of us in the council and around the council, and also in all the cities where there are a lot of demos and actions announced, that we can still change this. So if enough people say, hey, this can't be happening, that in 2023 we're going to destroy another village for lignite, we can still prevent it.
In Honduras,
It's crazy how they twist everything into the climate thing too. Like,
human rights and environmental leaders are demanding justice for 2 water defenders who were shot dead by unknown gunmen over the weekend in the village of Guapinol. Ali Dominguez and Jairo Bonilla were members of a community committee that opposed a mining project threatening sacred rivers and other natural resources in the region. Brazilian authorities have ordered the arrest of 2 government security officials in connection with Sunday's assault on Brazil's Congress, Supreme Court, and presidential palace by supporters of former far-right President Jair Bolsonaro. One of the top officials is Anderson Torres, who is chief of security in Brasilia. Authorities have also asked a federal court to freeze Bolsonaro's assets while they continue to investigate the attack. Bolsonaro fled to Orlando, Florida, ahead of the inauguration of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Over 1,500 of his supporters have been arrested for their involvement in the riots.
that's interesting to me. I think that when you go back to January 6th and what happened in January 6th, did any top like security people get in trouble for that? Because, you know, we know that it had to be, you know, I don't want to say completely an inside job, but for them to get all the way in there and all of that, like they basically opened the barricades and stuff for these people. Like under normal circumstances, you can't even get close to that building.
That's all still part of the things going on as far as what's happening. I think they had like a couple of weeks off with pay or something like that.
Those people should get in trouble, regardless of how anyone feels about the situation. If the people were right or wrong, or you sympathize with the people storming the Capitol, either way, these government facilities should be protected. And and who's ever in charge of that should get in trouble if they allow. If it was my job, if my job was security of a regular ass building, and some people got into the building, then I'm gonna be in trouble.
You know, they were let in. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I mean, there's even videos of the guy having to look back to let the guy know on the camera to hit the buzzer.
Yeah,
because half of those doors on that thing, you know, if they initiate a lockdown, they're only going to get open from the security office.
So in Brazil, the security people are getting in trouble, but I don't think that happened here.
Well, like I say, I think they got a few weeks after when they were being investigated. During the investigation, I think they got some time off with pay or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's not getting in trouble.
Colombian Vice President Francia Marquez said Tuesday her security personnel found and destroyed a 15-pound explosive device hidden in the road leading to her family's home in the town of Yolambó. Marquez Mina wrote on Twitter, quote, "This was another attempt on my life. However, we will not stop working day after day until we achieve the peace Colombia dreams of and deserves. We won't give up until every territory lives in true harmony," she said. Marquez Mina is the first Afro-Colombian woman elected as vice president of Colombia and an environmentalist who survived another assassination attempt in 2019. She's also been the target of racist attacks and death threats. Back in the United States, the Republican majority House on Tuesday approved the creation of the Weaponization of the Federal Government Select Subcommittee to investigate what they say is the targeting of conservatives and includes probing government investigations into former President Trump and the January 6th Capitol attack. Democrats and ethics groups condemned the committee, which will be led by far-right Congressmember Jim Jordan, with some dubbing it the Insurrection Protection Committee.
That's interesting too. So, you know, one of the first moves that the House made as the Republicans take over power is to make sure that, you know, no more people really get in trouble related to let's just bury this whole January 6th thing and move on. Don't investigate no more. We're done.
In California, progressive Congressmember Katie Porter has announced her bid for the U.S. Senate in 2024, as many expect 89-year-old Dianne Feinstein to retire at the end of her current term after serving over 3 decades. A former student of Elizabeth Warren at Harvard Law School, Congressmember Porter has represented Orange County in the House since 2018 and is well known for her pointed, no-nonsense questionings in the House Oversight Committee. Other high-profile California Democrats who could run for the Senate seat include Congressmembers Adam Schiff, Barbara Lee, and Ro Khanna.
I could see Katie Porter winning that. It's going to be a real struggle, but I could see her winning that.
In other 2024 news, billboards urging President Biden not to seek re-election appeared in front of the White House and Capitol this week. The group behind the Don't Run Joe campaign, Roots Action, also recently aired a TV ad with the same message. Roots Action said polls show a majority of Americans do not want Biden to keep representing the Democratic Party, and that, quote, an open Democratic primary could chart a bolder, more popular future for the party.
I think that would be an actually good idea. I think that's for the Democrats. I think that's a good idea. And it's kind of surprising that it would have so much. Obviously, there's some money put behind this. You know, I wonder, a good question would be, where's the money coming from for this?
Quote. A New York judge sentenced former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg to 5 months at the Rikers Island jail complex over the company's tax fraud scheme. Weisselberg pleaded guilty to 15 felonies in August. He's left the Trump Organization, but still received his $500,000 annual bonus and an undisclosed severance. He could actually serve far less than the 5 months in jail. In medical news, the FDA has fast-tracked the approval of a new drug that appears to slow down Alzheimer's disease in its early stages. Scientists say lecanemab, marketed as Leqembi, is an exciting development in treating the neurodegenerative disorder which affects around 6 million people in the United States.
Thus far, we've had no treatments that slowed down or prevented the progression of Alzheimer's disease. What we've had is symptomatic drugs that they help with some of the clinical symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, but they do nothing to slow down the basic disease progression, the underlying pathology.
but it's not clear how many people the intravenous treatment will help, as it comes in at a yearly cost of $26,500, and Medicare will only cover the cost of patients are enrolled in a clinical trial. It's possible lecanemab, which is made by Biogen, will be fully covered once it receives full FDA approval.
Okay, so there goes the pharmaceutical industrial complex finna make a killing off of Alzheimer's. And it's very, very sad because a lot of people are going to be willing to spend, they're going to put their house up. They're going to sell their house to be able to cover these bills. Why does it have to cost $2,600 a year? Shit, that's how much, I don't know, maybe 40% of Americans make a year. So it's definitely not going to be for the regular folks. The regular folks who get Alzheimer's won't be able to afford this drug.
The governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands, Albert Bryan, is denying claims he recently fired the territory's attorney general, Denise George, because of her investigations into Jeffrey Epstein, who owned 2 private islands in the Virgin Islands. Denise George's firing came days after she filed a lawsuit against J.P. Morgan Chase for the bank's role in financing the late Epstein's human trafficking empire in the U.S. Virgin Islands and elsewhere. George recently secured a $105 million settlement from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, who died in 2019 of an apparent suicide in a federal jail in New York.
That story is so interesting to me. I talked about it a bit. Don't Run Joe ad. You sent me the ad. Is it the actual? I don't know if I'll be able to play it because sometimes those ads get me in trouble. But this story right here is super interesting to me. And they're saying that, oh, no, we didn't fire her because of her suing Chase over the Epstein thing. It wasn't that. It was something else.
I think this one I think is the Sky News Australia coverage of the ad.
Yeah, I could probably play.
So you can comment on the coverage of the news coverage of it.
Yeah, I think I might be able to
we're
play
not
that.
claiming any ownership. Only thing we show, we're crediting the source on all of it. It is whoever's. It is not our rights. We're just using it for commentary.
Yeah, I think I can get away with that. I might be able. I might go back to that. So, but what do you think about this one? That there's, the guy is like, no, we didn't fire her because of that. It was something else that we fired her for. It had nothing to do with Epstein and her suing Chase.
I don't know enough about it. Sounds like something they would say to avoid paying unemployment. Something like one of my managers would have told me to say if the guy from unemployment called and said, hey, what about this person? Oh, yeah, we didn't fire them because they were telling on us about stuff. They weren't doing their duties correctly or
exactly. That's what it sounds like to me.
They were going to bars after work and talking bad about the managers, and it started getting around.
Or something else, whatever they pull out of their ass.
They were being insubordinate.
Well,
insubordination is always.
Yeah, because that's an umbrella. You could put a whole bunch of stuff underneath that.
Say, resting bartender face will get you that.
Environmental groups are suing French company Danone for failing to reduce its plastic footprint. The yogurt and bottled water maker was recently found to be one of the worst plastic polluters, along with Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, and Nestle. The lawsuit is being filed under France's 2017 duty of vigilance law, which requires companies to track and reduce human rights and environmental violations. The company markets its products in the U.S. as Danone. Hundreds of flights across the United States were grounded this morning after the Federal Aviation Administration said it was dealing with a system failure. Over 2,500 flights in and out of the U.S. were delayed as of early this morning, and more than 90 flights were canceled. All airlines were ordered to pause domestic flights. And in entertainment news, the Golden Globes were awarded Tuesday night. The night's MC, comedian Gerard Carmichael, kicked off the ceremony by going after racism in Hollywood.
Come on.
The Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which I won't say they were a racist organization, but they didn't have a single black member until George Floyd died. So do with that information what you will.
He started off the evening by saying, "I am here because I am black." Golden.
I used to watch that show. He had a show. I think it got canceled. It was pretty damn funny. And this guy kind of came out of nowhere, I ain't gonna lie. And he's really conservative too. If you watch that show that he had, you could see that the views were very conservative, and it was like, I don't know, very America friendly or whatever, and like, you know, everybody can make it type stuff. So it's funny how right here it's all like, you know, the racial things, but that's really not how he presents himself. And I think that's the reason why they picked him for this. But he maybe flipped the script a little bit on him.
Golden Globe winners included Argentina 1985,
Come on.
which won for Best Motion Picture in a non-English language. The film is about Argentina's trial of the juntas, the civilian court that prosecuted Argentina's former military leaders for brutal crimes committed during the U.S.-backed right-wing military dictatorship from 1976 to 1983. The film is based in part on the story of Luis Moreno Ocampo, who prosecuted the Argentine generals and later became the first prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. Luis Moreno Ocampo spoke to Democracy Now! Earlier this week.
Basically, the impact of the junta trial will not just unveil the crimes committed by dictators, was transforming democracy. People feel democracy is my system, I will protect it. And that's why the film, Santiago Mitre film, is so important, because 40 years later, the new generations, the young kids, are learning about this through the movie. So as a prosecutor, I had to prevent future crimes. And Santiago Mitre is doing that 40 years later.
Argentina 1985 is a feature film playing on Amazon Prime.
Anyways, we'll read a couple comments, and then I want to go into the air flight thing that she touched on. That's why I didn't stop on that one, because I want to comment more on that. Let's read a couple comments. It says, Katie Porter is brilliant. I hope she wins. Another comment, it says, although I never watch awards, I do appreciate films that impact truth. Congratulations to Argentinian film, Argentina 1985, for the Golden Globes win. I highly recommend this and will see it. If those who have never read about these crimes, this film, I assure you, will broaden one's grasp of what happened and still happens in our world today. Again, thank you, Amy and Team Democracy Now, for our real news. People demand freedom of speech and a compensation of freedom from thought, which they seldom use. Soren Kierkegaard. That was a quote. Another comment, it says, Weiselberg got a slap on the finger. Disgusting. Crooks need real punishment. Another comment, it says, Once again, we see the rich get only a slap on the wrist for their crimes while the poor do hard time. Another comment says 15 felonies, 5 months, what the F? Another comment that says Iran is not the only country in the ME known for human rights violation. Israel and Saudi Arabia are equally culpable for human rights violation. If they want to inculpate Iran for human rights violations, then they should include Israel and Saudi Arabia. I agree with that. It's a trip why they like the whole thing with the, I'm not saying that the Iran thing is not a thing, but it's a trip to me how much that has been in the media versus other things that's going on in the world. It kind of follows a certain narrative. Let me read another comment. It says, Katie Porter needs to run for president. I'd actually go out and vote for her. She's the exact kind of president we need. Someone who won't take I don't know as a legit answer. Nothing pisses me off more than rich assholes getting away with things because they play stupid, even though it would mean they shouldn't have their position. Excellent comment there. Katie Porter for president. I didn't even think about that. That's interesting. I don't know how she would do it, though, because the Democrats, she would have to come. Yeah, that would be a real hard, tall order for her. Another comment says, Weisenberg, 5 months. There's no justice in America. Another comment, war is always for profit, but thank you, Amy, for just delivering the info without personal feelings. Another comment, it says, what good has religion done for humanity? What evil has religion done for humanity? What was that link? Oh, the Harris County thing. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going into that. Let me read another comment. It says, going to hell in a handbasket. Thank you for what you do, Team Democracy Now! Another comment. What are the chances that Orlando will cough up an arrest warrant for Bolsonaro the way Brattleboro, Vermont still has a bench warrant for Dick Cheney? I think Brattleboro is just posturing for tourist attraction. If they really cared about people, they wouldn't allow the application of coal ash and winter road treatment. Sad. They are saying something about Bolsonaro. They're saying that they should kick him out. I think that's what they said. I don't know that they would do that. And then what jurisdiction would they have to do that? Houston, Texas article, mayor candidate. Yeah, I think I'm going to go into that before. I'm going to go into that. I'll read another comment. Says, 5 months for 15 felonies. I would have gotten more for shoplifting a chocolate bar. How pathetic America is becoming. Everybody is on that one. I want to do real quick. Let's talk about the planes. Because I think it's more to that particular story than it seems. The flights being grounded. And then we'll go into some of that stuff you sent me just now, Doc. Because I didn't know that, and I want to dig into it.
Across the United States of America have been grounded due to a glitch with the Federal Aviation Administration's computer system. And this has been reported by the US media. The FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration, has confirmed that the United States notice to air mission system has failed. Rishabh has some more details for us. Yes, Rishabh, take us through them. Well, let me go back once again to Rishabh. Rishabh, take us through what's actually caused the grounding of all flights in the United States due to the failure of the system there.
So what we know right now that there is a computer outage that has been reported by Federal Aviation Administration, and this has resulted in cancellation and grounding of almost all flights nationwide in the United States. Remember, there is a centralized system in the United States that look into all the technicalities of, be it navigation, be it parking, or be it direction of flights, and that computer system has faced an outage and resulting into grounding of all the flights. It will take some time before or the flight gets back to normal. But for now, it's a major glitch, a major computer outage, resulting into grounding of almost all flights in the United States.
And Rishabh, from what we gather, the system is called the NOTAM, which is the United States Notice to Air Missions. And this actually serves the function of informing pilots of circumstances related to state of flying and are needed before a plane can actually take off. So this particular system, which is absolutely critical for planes to take off or land, has now, in fact, completely collapsed. And the engineers are working towards restoring that system. Is that accurate?
Definitely. If you see, it is called Air Traffic Control System Command Center that is in general look into landing or taking off of the plane, which basically gives direction at what altitude one plane will start descending, at what latitude and longitude the plane should be directed towards for taking the certain runway, and also at what time shall the plane start descending and taking off. And these are the nuances when it comes to for a flight to take off or land, and that system is facing an outage, and that's the reason that any plane right now cannot take off till the glitch is not solved.
And Rishabh, the United States is some of the world's busiest airports in terms of air traffic. So there'll be complete chaos at the airports because of this.
Definitely, people are given the air traffic that the United States has, which is for the viewers in India, US air traffic is multiplied by 60 of what we have in India right now. For example, the amount of people that we see at Indira Gandhi Airport is 1/6 of what you'll see at Newark Airport or Washington DC Airport. And given the outage, given the cancellation of flights, be it internal or international flights, there is definitely an utter chaos right now. And almost every airport, people are waiting, a few inside the cabin as well, because they were seated for the takeoff when this outage happened. And now airlines are actually figuring out how to channelize these passengers to ensure that there is no further crowding or chaos at the terminal.
And one more question, Rishabh. It appears that the authorities themselves have absolutely no idea as to how long this might take to resolve. I'm reading a notice on the FAA website. It says technicians are currently working to restore the system, and there is no estimate for restoration of service at this time. Since then, no new NOTAMs or amendments have been processed. So we don't yet know how long this might take to resolve.
Definitely, NOTAMs or any clear message have not come in. The authorities are still figuring out whether it's a cyber attack or it's a glitch or it is some coding issue within the system. So till the time that the authorities themselves are clear, it is going to take some time to figure out whether it is an hour or 2 hour or a day long issue that needs to be solved. So we'll have to wait and see how things develop. But till the things develop, there is an utter chaos at airports like Los Angeles, airports like Newark, New York, as well as Washington, D.C. and Atlanta.
And
that's crazy. It just sounds really crazy to me. Like, that's a major F up. Like, they don't have backup systems for this. So one little glitch or whatever it is, coding error or whatever the hell it is going to down the flights all across the United States. Like, that is crazy to me. Like, y'all don't have no backup systems. Y'all don't have nothing in place to deal with this in case something happens.
That is how delicate a lot of our infrastructure is. Why do you think that I get aggravated when they're throwing all this green energy and all these emission things and stuff like that when we've got roads that need to be done? We got pipes that need to be done. Hell, here in Houston, they're requesting $80 million to expand the ship channel. I mean, and that's needed. And you can't tell me that Galveston doesn't need to build up the seawall a little bit more. You can't tell me that, all this area on this side that got flooded needs a little bit of work again.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we need to get to these drain offs and clean some of the debris and the dirt and the trees and stuff out of them so they actually work again.
Yeah, that's one thing. But I mean, and I agree with you on that. We talked about the water systems for a long time on the show, one of the other shows, but this is kind of different because it's a computer issue. Like that, it just doesn't. It sounds really fishy to me. Like, y'all don't have no backup systems, or you don't have a backup whatever to be able to deal with it if the system goes down. Shouldn't you have some kind of backup system?
Of course,
to deal
there
with this?
are redundant systems and things like that. That's why I'm thinking that it's a lot more than what we're being told.
That's my point. I think they're lying. I don't think it's true. I mean, not to say that like there was a computer glitch that's true about that. I don't think they're being honest about. Well, I don't think they're being honest about what is causing this and what's the real problem. And I would go as far as to say that maybe this has to do with, like I say, the COVID lockdowns and so forth and so on. Just another way to exhort their power. It's like the being able to just tell y'all, no, y'all not flying nowhere, y'all not going nowhere right now, like and getting us used to this like totalitarian type of thing where no international flights, no domestic flights, like sit down and be still for a while, like because we say so. The caption, it says thousands of people remain stranded across airports in the United States as all flights in the country remain grounded due to computer outage. All the flights remaining grounded due to a computer outage. That sounds fishy to me. A couple comments. It says, I think it's hackers. I think it is a hacker attack. I saw something that said that it's not that they don't think it's that. And I think that if it was a hack, then they would have said that right off the top.
No, they do not want the American people to know how vulnerable our systems are. I'm serious. If people knew how fragile our power system was, our nuclear system, all that, they would be afraid. Hackers have been ransomwaring and shutting stuff down for the last couple of years, especially. And you'll see little mentions of it here and there, but nothing ever big enough.
Yeah, well, how could a hacker shut down the whole system across the United States? I could see it being localized. I just can't see it being the whole freaking system.
How can a simple glitch affect every single?
That's why I don't. That's why I don't believe it.
Question is, what was going on? Why did they need to keep? What were they doing when they needed to keep the planes down?
Yeah, exactly. What is really going on? Let me read a couple comments. This one is
I'm thinking the aliens and stuff like that might have been doing a close Passover, and we're not supposed to be as advanced as we look, so they wanted to keep all that air flight travel down. Just a theory. I am a science fiction fantasy game writer, so
yeah,
I have to do stuff like that.
That seems pretty extreme or whatever, but I wouldn't put nothing past this. I mean, I don't know. It could be whatever it is. It's not what they're saying.
I am a firm believer that we are being visited by other cultures, let's say, and I also have a feeling that they think we are absolutely batshit crazy, and they are here just filming us, watching us, and we're just like some big crazy reality show off in the big galactic hub.
I like to think of it like that. I really do like to think that we're being watched and
keeping up with the Earthlings.
Yeah, I think that would be the nicest reality show you could come up with.
I mean, they're such a crazy people. They actually named their planet Dirt.
I think it would be a cool ass reality show for aliens. This comment, it says first episode of Scorpion. I don't know what they're talking about there. Another comment, it says this must be the work of artificial intelligence. Another comment, it says Chinese did it. What are they saying there? Another comment, it says China's new toolkit cyber attack that country is at a thorn to this world. Oh, they're trying to say that China is the one who did the cyber attack. Okay. Another comment, it says the terminal part 2. Another comment, it says can't read that. It's not in English. Let's see. They got hidden comments. This one, it says, I lost my job. I thought I've lost it all. With the little cash of 2,000 euro, Miss Oksani turned that into 9,000 euros in just 7 days. He may not know what it says. He may not know, but he's really has saved my life. I have no idea what they're talking about there. That was probably a bot. There's one more clip of this. I don't know if it's going to be relevant because it seems like they covered it pretty good, the India channel that did that. But here it is right here. It says, FAA orders temporary nationwide pause on all domestic flights following computer failure. The FAA has ordered a nationwide pause on all domestic departures until 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning following a computer failure that has impacted flights around the country. This comment, it says, have they tried unplugging their modem and plugging it in again?
Hey, I wonder what was happening over at the East Coast for that Amtrak line. They didn't want them to see nothing that was passing through that area either.
Interesting.
I mean, that's a whole lot of plane. Like I said, there's a whole lot of planes on the ground. I wonder why. Why is it wanted for plane travel to stop? Isn't that really going to kick emissions up a little bit because of all the car travel we're going to have to be doing?
Well, they talk about the airplanes being one of the biggest emitters of it.
But if you divide that by the number of people traveling to the different destinations, does the individual carbon footprint equal out to other forms of transit that they would all have to take?
Yeah, I think it would actually go down because maybe people would be taking trains, and a lot of people are just stuck in airports.
Well, no, you don't really want to take a train right now either. Well, remember, I sent you that link about Amtrak. They were stuck for 30 hours.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I just sent you about 6 or 8 links, just barraged you real quick with a whole bunch of like, whoa.
Yeah, I got the notifications. I'm gonna click on some of them.
Yeah, some of them. I mean, that's not meant to all be tonight. I mean, if you want to space that out or have that as fillers.
Well, you mentioned a couple of those that I kind of wanted to touch on because I didn't know about them.
Right. Well, like I said, you could do this over a couple of days too.
This comment, it says domestic only. I guess it doesn't apply once flights are out of our airspace. This is possibly a cyber attack. This one, it says they're not telling us something. That's what I'm saying. And this one, it says Southwest.
Both of us are saying we're not telling us something. I mentioned cyber attack. It's not a very difficult. Oh yeah, Scorpion was a TV show that was on like 2014. They were like a special super cyber squad to do stuff, and in their pilot episode, there was a cyber attack on the domestic air traffic control grid. That's what he was referring earlier in that one.
Okay, that clears that up. This comment, it says Southwest 2.0. So that's interesting too, because I couldn't help but to think about that too, because in the news it was recently the stuff that was going on with Southwest and all the people.
So incremental version of the cyber attack. They got into Southwest Bam. Okay, see, we got an individual airline. Now, let's see if we can shut the whole thing down.
How much can we get away with? And that's what I'm thinking.
Can't say this is what happens. It is a conspiracy theory, but that is the way it starts. You do little small attacks on small things like booking, reservations, things like that, and then bam, you get into their big grid. Now you're in there. Now you've found a way. Their stuff has to communicate with what's going on the main grid. Now that you've found your way in, you've got your step into the next level of the cybersecurity and stuff like that. It's like Texas's power grid is not connected with the rest of the United States. Some people are saying that's good. Some people are saying it's bad. What it does mean, though, is if there's a massive cyber attack that shuts down the national power grid, Texas is still going to have power. Just, say I might be wrong. Oh, ew, that looks like bed bugs. Dude, I'm sitting here itching now. You look at that. You're making me scratch, dude. I've had them before.
Yeah, I dealt with them.
That's
Them damn things are the devil. I don't think there's anything worse than them fucking things. Ugh.
I lost my stuff because the original reason it was in storage and not with me, and I got lazy and not keeping up with it, was because it had bed bugs and I had to spend at least a year and a half with it with no food for them to die.
Yeah, well, I moved and I left most of my stuff, and the stuff I did bring, I left it in storage for a good amount of time before
Dude, I carried stuff with me when I started moving around. 2 boxes of paperwork. The suckers were in a little fold in the paper, and I brought them, like a dozen of them, and it reinfested the house that someone let me move in with them. Felt horrible. But it was that complex right next to Nick's place across from Chewy's. They had bad problems with them. And their dryers were not hot enough to kill the bed bugs. So if you tried to wash all your stuff and clean it all up, you couldn't get it clean if you had them. And you would get them from other people. That's how I got mine. I washed my clothes in there, threw my stuff in the dryer. I brought the bed bugs back because it wasn't killing the bed bugs, and the stuff in the dryer they were getting into my stuff from the dryer. I'm not going to be uncool and name the complex. That would be uncool of me.
Yeah.
Put it this way: health department came by and made them replace all of their washers and dryers at one point.
I'm trying to decide on which ones I want to cover now before we go.
Cool. Just move it off of those bed bugs, dude.
Yeah, let's
I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here scratching, dude.
Let's stop talking about that. Freaking sell your crypto. I was thinking about talking about that. Hold on.
I need to look into that a little bit right now because I learned a little bit about crypto and stuff during this lockdown.
Well, Jim Cramer says sell your crypto.
Salvador is an example. Kicking two with it. They made crypto legal, and then it crashed right after that, and their whole freaking economy just about crashed.
Yeah, crypto. Freaking Jim Cramer was all about crypto, and now he's saying sell it. So that's what was interesting.
You still got those bed bugs up.
Where is it at? It's on my screen.
It's on the screen. Yes, you got that fucker on loop.
I didn't even know.
That's what I kept saying. Take those bed bugs off, man. I'm scratching. I'm scratching here.
Them shits are the devil, man. I didn't even know that was on the screen because I was on a different screen. Freaking Yeah, the crypto. Hold on, let me see if we want to talk about that. Louisiana's imprisoning kids on death row. Oh, let me do this right quick because this is an old story, but it really got me all emotional. This guy went to jail for overpaying his child support, overseeing his kid. And I think it's just an example of how screwed up the damn system is. Let me see if this is the one I want to do. I'm itching now. Fuck.
Is facing 180 days in jail for overpaying his child support and over visiting his 11-year-old son. His attorney and a community activist are now demanding answers.
So, after doing further research, Clifford Hall actually ended up getting released from jail after serving 14 days, thankfully to his strong legal team that he had hired to defend him. But here's what ended up happening overall. So, not only did this innocent man spend 2 weeks of his life in jail, he lost his job. His employer even admitted that it was a clerical error on their part, and now he's $10,000 in debt, including having to also pay for his ex-wife's attorney fees, which she's the one that actually brought him to court in the first place.
This is an old story,
Father
but
is facing 180 days.
I just think it embodies how corrupt the system is related to that stuff with child custody, related to the mom, and against the fathers. I've been through it personally.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing. You know, a guy can have a buttload of money and offer, hey, tell you what, $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month. I got all the insurance and everything covered. And she can sue him and get 10, 15, 20,000 because he makes that money. And it's like, but you don't need that much. That's more than enough to support yourself and the child on quite well.
It's just so freaking ridiculous.
But they'll give her, $20,000, $30,000 a month, and it's like, and then she'll do stuff like, oh, well, he can't get custody either. He can't see her, or yeah, he'll live half the time, or he'll spend half the time with you, but I still get all of that. We're not going to readjust that amount.
It's so foul. And then, so this is an old story, 8 years ago or something. But this is freaking. This hasn't been fixed.
The story above it is another one I've got problem with.
What are you talking about?
If I'm not mistaken, that is the guy whose wife got pregnant by another man. They got divorced, but because the child was born while they were still married, he was required to pay child support for it.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know if that's this one.
I don't know if that's the one, but I know there is a story like that.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That's another. But yeah, I mean,
that popped up related to this, and the dude was like, "I don't want to pay for no child. It's not even my kid."
There's another one from Louisiana where he was not even in the state at the time, and she put his name on the birth certificate. And because she named him as father on the birth certificate and it wasn't challenged, it was an official state document. And because it was on the document, she went after him for child support. Actually, no, she went for welfare, and welfare went after him for child support.
This is the kind of shit.
It wasn't even her choice to do it. She was told, if you don't do it, you don't get welfare.
This is freaking really foul, and it has to be. You know how they say the system doesn't work or the system is broken. It has to be the way they want it to work. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I got custody of my son when he was 9. I owed about $9,000 in back child support. So we made a deal. for 5 years, you take him as your child on the tax credit, and I won't. And I don't get any child support from you or anything like that. You get the tax credit. So that's how we did it. She ended up with like, $18,000 over 5 years. And I didn't start taking tax credit for him until he was like 15, 16 years old. I only got a couple years.
I don't even want to tell my story, but I didn't even get no tax credit for mine. All I had to do was pay the whole time, and it was a lot. I had back child support too. It really almost ruined my life. They was garnishing my wages. I don't want to talk about it, but that's the reason why this is sensitive to me.
Part of the reason you ended up in food service, because they couldn't take your money from you.
Right. That's exactly how I ended up here, because I could get my cash every day. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to pay bills.
That's one of the reasons why they're also going to start trying to change. They're changing everybody to where we get our money by the week instead of by the day, and everything has to go on cards. That way they can start tracking rent expenses and stuff like that. And that way, because it's given as a lump sum, it can be considered as an hourly wage above sub minimum, so they can start garnishing it for purposes of taxes, student loans, and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, now the government can't do it either. But if the government can do it, the federal government, then the state is going to say, well, you can do it, so now we can do it.
Well, they was taking my income tax. I just now started being able to get income tax, but it's been about a year or so since I've been able to.
I'm still default student. I'm hoping to get my taxes done before that flips.
Let me play. This is the same story, but let me play this.
Wild and unbelievable stories here in Detroit. This is one of them.
Same story, because the other one was in.
Yeah, this is the one that we were talking about while we were watching the one that overpaid.
Yeah.
Imagine being told to pay child support for a kid that is not yours or go to jail. That was the order the state handed down to a Detroit man.
So today he turned himself in, but here's what happened when 7 Action News reporter Kim Russell went with him to court.
Carnell Alexander walked into the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice knowing in moments he could lose his freedom.
I stayed up all night, couldn't sleep, thinking about it.
Carnell is a wanted man because he refuses to do what the state orders and to pay child support for a child that DNA tests prove isn't his. A child he doesn't even know.
I haven't even had a chance to really speak to him, except for one time when we took the DNA test.
Nonetheless, right now, under the law, he's a deadbeat dad. Today, he turned himself in to the judge as ordered.
Scared because I've been before this judge before.
But this time, he had attorney Cherika Harris, who volunteered to help after seeing his story on 7 Action News. The judge said he will not go to jail for today.
Thank you. Thank Ms. Harris. And hope that we can resolve this soon.
I'm just trying to help him in his future. Though the threat of jail is on hold, it is not over. Carnell Alexander still owes more than $30,000 to the state for a child that's not his, because the mom wrote his name down because she needed to name someone in order to get welfare benefits.
And I had to put him down as the father. That was the only way I can get the system.
Now,
I'm almost homeless. I'm almost in jail. I'm out of work. My money is being threatened to be taken.
Carnell isn't just worried about how this is impacting him. He says the law needs to be changed, so when this happens, as it often does, other men don't become dad by default.
We can be defaulted into being a father of a child that is not ours. I don't understand that law, but it is a law in place.
In Detroit, Kim Russell, 7 Action News.
Yeah, you would think that mother would have to pay that money back instead of him, who's not the father's child.
That's so crazy. And they haven't fixed none of this stuff.
See, he should be able to go back and file fraud charges against her. Because she signed him as the father on a government document. The government should be going after her for fraud.
But they're not. Bullshit.
Well, see, that's punishing the mother.
Yeah, and they don't really do that.
And like I said, and it was just because she went for welfare and had to put a name down. That wasn't even the birth certificate. The chick I was talking about, he wasn't there when the doctors asked. She just said it was his, and the doctor wrote it down on the birth certificate.
And lives are being ruined by this. And then, they talk about, like, they say that the government as the father for these women, and then it gives them this out. And if the women tend to have any kind of spite in them, then they can just use the government to freaking ruin these men's lives just cause on whims. Let me play this one. It's the first story, I think, but this one explains it better.
Father is facing 180 days in jail for overpaying his child support and over visiting his 11-year-old son. His attorney and a community activist are now demanding answers. Randy Wallace joins us live with the story.
Overpaying, over visiting, violation.
We all expect to see judges throw the book at fathers who fail to pay child support. But a father who says he's been doing the right thing now has an arrest warrant against him.
It's my responsibility to take care of it. I brought him in this world. I have to.
Clifford Hall says he's more than happy to pay child support for his 11-year-old son.
I'm his father. It's my responsibility to take care of it.
But Hall says when the amount of child support was modified, no one told him.
And I discovered that for some reason, his employer was withholding a large amount some weeks, a small amount some weeks, zero amount some weeks.
And I didn't want to go to jail, basically.
So Hall quickly paid almost $3,000 in back child support. When Hall and his ex-wife were in Judge Lisa Millard's court last November, he owed nothing.
Opposing counsel testified twice that he's not paid up.
But the attorney representing the child's mother wanted Hall to pay her $3,000 in attorney fees, and Judge Millard agreed. Court documents also reveal Hall wasn't following the court's scheduled times to pick up his son, another modification he says he knew nothing about.
The judge ended up sentencing him to 6 months in jail.
When she said, remand you to the Harris County Jail for 180 days, my mouth just dropped.
This entire situation is shocking to me. I've never seen one like this.
Community activist Quanell X wants the state's judicial board to investigate.
The court failed the child. The court failed Mr. Hall. The system broke down.
I can't be there for my son in jail. I can't pay child support in jail. This is not in the best interest of the child.
Judge Lisa Millard says Hall walked out of court after he was found in contempt, which she says is a big no-no. Judge Millard also points out Hall's attorney could have filed a motion for reconsideration. She says that would have allowed her to hear both sides again and reevaluate the situation. Hall's attorney is now working on an appeal, and in a few days, Hall plans to turn himself in, and Don will, of course, keep everybody posted on how the
Crazy retarded system still hasn't been fixed. Still, guys are still going through the same type of stuff. So unfair and ridiculous. Let me read some comments. It says the judge needs to be removed and prohibited from holding a public office ever again. So that's another part. I would blame the mom heavily.
Am I mistaken, or does the government get a small cut, like a 1% or a partial percent of the money that goes through the system?
Yeah, no, it's more than 1%. I have the paperwork. I could probably pull it out, but yeah, the mom doesn't even, all of that child support that they pay, the mom doesn't even get all of that money. They only get a percentage of it. It's more than 1% that is taken. It's like fees or whatever the hell they fucking call it.
Yeah, and it's a non-voluntary system, because you could just pay it and everything is okay, but the government insists that it goes through them now, right?
Right. You have to pay
it. It's no longer an honor system.
You have to pay it through them. They don't even, if they told me you can pay her all you want, but you won't get no credit for that. The amount that you pay, that you owe for the child support will still be the same. You don't get no credit for it at all. It has to go through the system, period. So even
back in the day, I could give her a money order, and if she called foul, I could go to the judge and go, no, see, here's the money order. Here's proof that I did it. and it would be okay.
Nope. I still have a present child support case that's still going for another child. And that's when sometimes we talk about, I give her money all the time, but sometimes we talk about it and then I'll be like, I can't give it. I have to do it through the system. You know, I have to do it that way. You know, I mean, even though I give her money, you know, and sometimes when she asks for money, I'll be like, oh, you just got to wait for the child support or whatever, you know, because I have to do it that way. Let me read some more comments. It says, if he loves his child and is doing what he can to provide for him, he did nothing wrong. This proves that the justice system is effed up. Another comment, it says, it's not just men of color that get shafted by the family court system. It's all men. The quicker we realize that and unite as fathers of children instead of staying divided as fathers of this color or that color, the quicker we can change it and the better it will be for our children. So, but back to what you were saying about the money going into the system, that explains why the judge in this case decided what she decided, because they're making money off of this.
Mm-hmm.
Another comment, it says, I think the judge ought to go to jail just for being stupid. So stupid. She's not being stupid. She's making money for the system, and that's her. She's doing her job. And that's another reason why it won't ever get fixed, not as far as I can see. As long as they're making money off of it, lots and lots of money. Think about how many cases are like this. How many other child support cases, period. And then going to the court, all of that's money. The lawyers are making money. The county or whatever, the city, whatever jurisdiction, they're all making money. Let me read another comment. It says, I knew it was against the law to not pay child support, but I didn't know it was also against the law to pay too much for it. That's crazy. Another comment. And then the part about what they said about visiting the child too much, that's also in the paperwork. They give you this long, thick ass book of paperwork, and you have to follow that to the letter. Any stray out of it is a violation. And either side can really complain, but usually it's the mom. Let me read another comment. It says, as a divorced man that pays child support, I've come to understand that those laws have nothing to do with children. Broken system made to keep lawyers rich. I can't believe this. Hope he did not actually serve time. He's doing the right thing. Another comment, it says, it just goes to show you how a law degree doesn't mean you aren't a complete idiot. Look at Congress. They're not idiots. They're not idiots. They're freaking you. The system is what it is, and they're getting paid off of it. So not being an idiot, they're doing their job, actually. That's it, making money. Let me read another comment. It says, this is really messed up. I'm sorry this happened to you. You're a good man, and I applaud your efforts as a dad. Stay strong. Another comment, it says, the child support system have become a racket business for lawyers and judges. Boom, that's what we're saying. Another comment, it says, crazy, he lost his job for which he is paying the child support. Stupid. I hope he sues for millions. He ain't gonna get nothing. Another comment, it says, these are the kinds of stories that terrifies me from having children. I have no clue how anyone can sleep at night knowing people go through like this. I thank God neither of my parents went through this with me as a kid. I don't know what I'd do if all of a sudden my mom or dad wasn't around every day at home, and instead their only worth as a parent was a check. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then, there's this, I talked about it in one of the other shows, but it seems like, you have this like romance stage or whatever that happens, with couples, and then they have a kid, and then once the kid gets like 2 or 3, the romance stage is over, and then here comes all the drama, and then like this guy just said, the kid just becomes a check for one of the parents, and a way to make the other one miserable, a spite thing. They're mad at them for whatever reason. Maybe they're just bored with them. They don't want to be with them no more. And they just fucking use the kid in this way, and it's so sad. And usually it's the dads that, and they be talking about single moms all the time. But in my life, I'm a single father, and I know many other single fathers. So it's weird how the system is always talking about single mothers. There's a lot of single fathers out here where the mom is not there, not present, or has no, that's not helping the child, that's not in the child's life at all. This takes my breath away. I think I'm gonna move on from this topic. I don't know. I think I have another one, and then I'm gonna go look at the ones that you sent me, and then we're probably gonna wrap it because I'm tired. Let me see. Do I have another one? A Japanese lady. That was interesting. The freaking corruption with the stock. Did we touch on that about the Republicans and the Democrats trading stocks? And that's becoming more and more in the news lately. Let's do a little bit of this. If this plays properly.
All right, Brian, what are you looking at today? What is, I love asking this. What is your point?
I don't have any point today. No, my point today, I'm looking at the Unusual Whales, who runs a great Twitter account that has been exposing in real time, along with a lot of other great reporting that's been done. Business Insider made it, I think, didn't they do like a year-long investigation into this? And finally, pressure has been building on Congress to do something about it. And then Nancy Pelosi kind of just sabotaged the talks at the very end and stepped down as Speaker. Now, Kevin McCarthy has sworn that he is going to ban this. Like, he said this to kind of embarrass Pelosi. So we'll see. If Kevin McCarthy does become Speaker, we'll see if he does this as one of his first acts or not. So I wanted to run through. Unusual Whales put out its annual report on 2022 spending. We can put up that first element there, 2022 stock trading report. And so I think he runs through a lot of the numbers and has a bunch of kind of helpful little bars that we can talk about here. So first of all, it does appear that I think two things combined to reduce the amount of trading that was done in Congress. I think one is the public condemnation of it, that it just became kind of the juice not worth the squeeze anymore. But also, when the market is receding, you're making less money, you're less inclined to play around in it. Everybody thinks they're a genius when the market is rising because their trades are all paying off. And then people quickly realize that they're not geniuses at all when the market is retreating. And we're going to get to how Pelosi's family lost 20%, which actually lost to the market, which is fascinating in a minute. But we'll put up this second one. So that what that shows you right there is that the number of the amount of trading went down. And so for the next one, it goes to here, that one right there. This compares the total value traded by members of Congress. One of the few people that increased significantly the amount of trading, Ro Khanna, who I think his spouse is super wealthy, and the spouse trading gets thrown into this as well. That's the case with Pelosi. Her husband Paul is a literal trader. Like that's his job. And then you have Josh Gottheimer down here after Michael McCall. Josh Gottheimer, who we're going to get to later, traded $64 million in options, buying and selling call options. But here he's down from 133 million in trading down to 52 million in stock trading this year. Rick Scott, not surprising, right? That he's one of the biggest traders out there. Bill Haggerty, that one surprise you?
No.
Then Tommy Tuberville got himself caught up in some really sketchy trades. I guess nobody has kind of confused him for a stock market genius either. It's like, wait a minute, Tommy, where'd you get these ideas? And then Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut, which is like the land of the traders.
Mm-hmm.
And so wouldn't be surprising that Richard Blumenthal also like, Richard, where'd you hear that?
Yeah.
On the flight back to Hartford.
On the train,
the train, like. And he has also done a bunch of good reporting on the relationship between the amount of lobbying that's done and then the amount of trading that's done. So if you're lobbied by a particular industry, you're more likely to trade stocks of that industry. And you can imagine how that's happening. So somebody's coming in, they're telling you what they want to do on this, what they want on this particular bill. And then they're also saying, hey, and by the way, it would be really great for us because, one of our drugs is about to be approved for phase 3 FDA. And this is why that's important for us to have this particular type of regulatory relief. And the member of Congress like, what'd you say again about that phase 3? When's that news hitting? Oh, October 15th, sir. Just happy to share this information with you. And then boom, October 13th, you see this member of Congress buys a bunch of stock, and you know that they were lobbying. You don't know what happened, but you can put 2 and 2 together.
But
So
you can't prove it.
you can only prove it when you get whose phone did they bug? Like they actually caught some people. Like actually,
Chris
Cox. No, not
in New York.
New York congressman who actually got on the phone. Although, anyway.
And they also always say it's in a blind trust.
Oh, it's blind trust. I couldn't see it. I was just talking about it. Yeah. And so let's put the one that says top 10 stocks bought by House reps in 2022. I thought this one was interesting too. Look at Tesla. Democrats, of the $6 million worth of Tesla's stock purchased, almost all of it was by Democrats. First of all, they took a bath on that. Right. I mean, that $6 million is now worth about $1 million or $2 million, depending on when they bought it.
Well, we'll see what happens next year.
Yes. So it looks like Republicans were smart not to be buying Tesla in 2022. You also see the same partisan divide here with Apple and Disney and Google and NVDA. I don't even know what that one is. So what did you think of that Tesla breakdown? How funny is that?
It's
also,
really
it could just be the problem, and he makes this point. It could just be Pelosi or like Ro Khanna. Like in a bunch of his stats, he just pulled Pelosi out. It's like she ruins all the data because she trades so much, or her husband trades so much.
So what is the breakdown? You mentioned the Gottheimer breakdown. What is interesting about his trading? Because Tesla, to me, is a good reminder that like Elon Musk, especially with Tesla, has been trying to do this sort of public-private partnership thing for years, where he has been very heavily subsidized, and Teslas are very heavily subsidized. They're only at the price point they are because of like very heavy subsidies from Democrats that have been so interested in this transition to renewables and green energy. And that's why they've always been generally very supportive of Tesla. And it wasn't a toxic stock. It wasn't a toxic company to be in the mix with at all until Elon.
Anyways, y'all get the point. They were finna go in about, the Democrats supporting green energy or whatever, and that's the reason why they're covering Tesla. And then, you would think that it would be good. Tesla would continue to go up, but since Musk bought Twitter, and all the problems with Twitter is bringing down the Tesla stock, and that's one of the reasons why. But I think that the point is that the corruption. This is corruption on both sides of the aisle with their stock tradings, using the information that they get. Not only information, but legislation that they draw up. Corruption. Let me read some comments. It says, as an hourly worker, I can tell you that what is breaking the workforce is pretty clear. Turn and burn. Strategy to our employment, which translates for us into not caring at all about our jobs because our employer does not care at all about us. We are disposable. This is insidiously destructive work culture we exist in, not to mention the growing disparity between our wages and corporate compensation, wages which largely remain well below a living wage. Great comment right there. This one, it says, kind of explains why Senator Ossoff's bill to ban Congress from trading went nowhere. Gift is one of the few things that are bipartisan. And that's what I always say. Whatever you find that's bipartisan, then there's a clue there. That's something that you really need to look at. Another comment, it says, Dear Ryan, the problem is the information Pelosi and company have such as how votes are going to go that affect stock prices that are unknown to the public. These people also vote on bills that affect stocks that they invested in. The conflicts are undeniable. Yeah, it's pretty undeniable. I don't think they should be able to trade stocks at all, them or their spouses. Because their spouses, if you're married to them, your money is all mixed up together, so you directly benefit. And blind trust shit is bullshit. Another comment, it says, another word for stock corruption is crime. Yeah, it's crime. These people should go to jail.
I'm sorry if I end up getting voted to Congress or something like that. It's not cool for you to take my ability to invest in stocks and stuff like that.
No, I think I
am also going to have something set up to where I'm investing this percentage every time I put stuff in, and it will not change while I'm in office unless, major things go. I mean, you're saying you have no right to save money. You have no right to stop your money from taking major financial hits in a market where you know what's going to happen, not using your knowledge, but just having your money in there, seeing a wall is fucking coming.
You can still invest, you can still save money, regular IRAs or regular what do they call them, pension plans or whatever the hell, the same shit that all the regular people do. No, I don't think that they should be able to trade stocks at all because
those are stocks.
Yeah, but if
those are stocks and markets that you're buying, that's what an IRA is.
Yeah, but you don't have no control over what they're choosing to invest in.
That's called a blind trust.
No, when they're talking about blind trust, they're talking about these.
They're saying that they have no control or knowledge over what's being done. That the money just goes to an account guy, and the account guy handles all their stuff.
Yeah, but that's bullshit. They're lying, and that's the problem.
That's what an IRA is.
Yeah, so if it's just a regular, the kind of like your job just puts the money in there, and they whatever it is, the returns, whatever it is, you don't have no control over it at all. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to do it ethically, but because of our corruption, because how foul it is, I don't think any of them should be able to trade. That's just how I feel.
So you're going to do legislation to stop them from doing something because they might do something.
Because they're corrupt.
Starting to sound a little Big Brother there, man.
I don't care if they want to work. If they chose to get they don't have to work for the government. They don't have to be senators. They could, if they want to just trade stocks like a.
So they lose their rights. They lose their rights as Americans because they take political office.
Yes, they lose their right to be able to trade stocks. Yes. Yes, you want to if you want to work for the American people.
That's some fascist bullshit, dude.
That's how I feel about it. If you want to, you are supposed to be there to help you there because you care. You there because you want to, help the people. You're not there to enrich yourselves. Then that shouldn't be your concern. Your concern, how much they're getting paid, whatever. If it's paying their bills, that should be enough.
You're punishing people that aren't doing that though. What American anything is about punishing people for what they're not doing?
I don't think
you yell out about all people racism, punish people just because of the color of their skin, but you're encouraging punishment to people that aren't doing anything wrong.
I don't think it's a punishment. I think that if you want
absolutely
to work,
it is.
If you want
being
to
cut
work
off
for the
from financial networks because someone else because
You shouldn't be in it for money.
Pelosi's making
Period.
millions.
You should be in it.
I can't take my money that I'm making and put it into a fucking account or two.
No, you can put it in some accounts, but you can't put it in no accounts that's doing any kind of stock trading because you're working for the government.
Which means I can't put it in an IRA. I can't put it in a money market account. I can't put it into REITs. I can't put it into REAs. I can't put it into top Fortune 500. I can't invest it in any of those, which means I got to put it in the bank where I get 0.5% interest.
Well, that's your choice because you chose
No,
to be
no,
a government.
no. Fuck you, man.
That if you chose to work for
No,
the government,
that is some un-American shit, dude.
That's just how I feel. I mean, like if you want to work for the government, you want to help the people, then that's what you're doing it because you care. You're doing it because you want to make a difference. You're not doing it because you're worried about how much money you're going to be making.
One bus driver gets caught drinking and has to go to rehab. So all of them have to go to rehab or take driver classes because of the one.
I don't think that's a good analogy.
You know, okay, let's see.
That's just how I feel about it. If you want to work in the government, then you there because you want to help people. You're not there to enrich yourself. You're not there to flip money. If you want to flip money in the stock market, don't be in the government. Period.
They should be able to allow use of non-manipulatable accounts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I say, I'm sure there's a way that it could be done ethically.
If their account is set up to only do the top, say, 10% dividend payers or whatever a year ago, I knew all the different markets and stuff. Is just set up on market base and not going in and saying, I'm buying this much of this company, this much of this one, and customizing it. I don't have a problem with it.
But that's not what's happening.
Exactly.
And we know that it's a lot of corruption. We know that they're getting in there to enrich themselves. A lot of the people are, and the ones that aren't going to be tripping about being able to trade stocks. I don't think so.
Hell yeah, they will be, because you cut off a major source of retirement income.
Well, do a better retirement. Have a better.
Hell no, they don't need a better retirement program. Matter of fact, they need to get off of the damn retirement program they're on and put on fucking Social Security like everyone else. They shouldn't be allowed to have anything but Social Security.
No, I don't agree with that. But 401k is fine. A really good 401k for government workers, where whatever matching funds or whatever the hell it is, some regular like shit that the rest of us do.
I don't think the government should have its own retirement funds. I think they should have. I think that if people want to go get those 401s, fine. But it shouldn't be done through government, because if Social Security is what it's supposed to be, then it wouldn't be needed, right?
I mean, that's a fair argument, but any job that you work on that's worth a shit is going to have some kind of 401k for you.
I think the individual insurance plan that's used by government and government people should be allowed and affordable to the normal public.
I agree with that. We all should have the same kind of health care that the
government employees should not get better. I'm sorry, I'll tell you the truth. It is my opinion that government work should be the last thing anyone would ever want to do.
Unless they really want to help the people. That's my point.
That should be, I'm not talking about politicians. I'm talking about rank and file, all these people. I'm going to get me a good government job because it pays the best. No, that shouldn't be one of the government should not be one of the highest payers and best benefits.
And that's the way it is. And so
because the idea is the government is not supposed to be the number one employer. The government is not supposed to be so big that it takes over. It's not supposed to rule. It's supposed to keep things on the rails. It's supposed to have minimal of effect as possible in our daily life.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I don't disagree with that. But I'm talking about senators, House of Representatives, presidents,
No, you're talking
governors.
about these funkers that we've elected in here who are telling us that they are decision makers and our leaders and have lost the humility to understand that they are our representatives.
And that's what they should be doing, just representing the people, not trading stocks. Period. Once you get out of office, then you can trade stocks as much as you want to.
Like I say, different subjects, but they should have an oversight group paying attention to make sure that they're not making undue profits from their position.
And they tried to bring in legislation for that, but the Congress shut that down. And they said no. So we're talking about the upper echelons of the government. Regular government employees let them trade stocks as much as they want to. They don't have this privileged information.
I'm talking elected politicians, not rank and file.
Yeah, so elected politicians should not. I stand on it. I don't change my mind on it. I'm not moving on that. No, they should not be able to. That's another thing with term limits. The argument with term limits, they're in there too long any damn ways. Go in there and do what you want to do to help people. And then when you get out, you can trade stocks all the hell you want to. That's fair. And you can trade stocks as much as you want to before you get elected. Sounds fair to me. Let me read a couple more comments. It says, kudos to Ryan for his presentation. Follow up on this issue. Let's hope Ryan's dredging up the incriminating stock trading details for all to see eventually works. Make them all squirm and vote them out. Another comment. Am I the only one who is disgusted by the amount of money those politicians have to trade? Even on the lower end, it's still millions. Makes me wonder how those people accumulated the wealth in the first place.
A lot of them got it before they became politicians. But it's not that they were, it's like you go into office, you're worth a couple of mil. You spend 3-4 terms, all of a sudden you're worth 50. That's one of those.
And how much of that did they make off of stock trades?
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Let me read some more. It says, all public servants should be legally not allowed to own any stock. You there to serve, not to get rich. That's my point right there. Another comment,
Like
it says,
I said, that stops them from being able to have retirement accounts.
They can have retirement accounts.
No, because those are invested in stocks.
If it's invested by somebody else, if it's done completely
That's a blind trust.
But they lie when they say blind trust. They're not being honest with that.
Some do, some don't. Some also think that you can't actually manipulate your IRA, but you can.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, it should be unmanipulated IRAs, something that is a real true blind trust, something that they're not making daily trades, weekly trades, monthly trades, any kind of trades that they have any power over. It's just the investment firm making the decisions, and boom, I don't have no problem with that. Because the investment firm isn't going to have the information that they have.
Fuck trusting someone else with my money.
I agree with that too, but if you are in regular
that's exactly what you are saying.
If you're a regular person, then fine, do your daily trades. But if you're a freaking congressperson, you cannot do daily trades. Fuck that. No.
The Congress people aren't the ones doing daily trades. There's no evidence of that or nothing said about that in anything that's been presented so far.
Man, it's almost 4 a.m. I'm fucking tired. I work double shift. I didn't even barely get no freaking break. I work tomorrow night, so I can sleep in a little bit, but then I gotta go get my phone fixed. So I gotta be to work at 3. I gotta get my phone fixed before I go to work. So, and what I'll do is we'll cover that stuff you sent me tomorrow. That way I won't even have to worry about getting a show together.
No, like I say, the reason I send stuff to you like that is that gives you the opportunity to look at it over a day or two and have a chance to be familiar with it, or to just be able to have something when you're like, oh shit, we got about 20 more minutes, or we need to stop and we need to break into a different subject for a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna look over some of it, and we're definitely gonna cover some of it tomorrow.
And I'm trying to be source neutral or source both sides as possible.
Yeah, because I ain't gonna have time to get a show together tomorrow, so that'll be good. So I hate that I lost. I didn't get Doc and I mean Pat and Deuce, but probably because of freaking my damn dead ass phone. But
well,
whatever.
no, because I sent the link to them in the group text,
and then I was late too, so that probably was it.
They were probably asleep by the time you were ready.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap it, y'all. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for listening. Peace and love, and we'll be back tomorrow. All right. Peace.